Hello and welcome to the Sherlock Reel. My name is Carl Sherlock, and today we have a great panel to discuss the top 32 highest grossing films in the box office. First, we have the meme queen herself. It's Jen Kemp.
Hi, thanks for having me back. I'm excited to talk about this. This is a lot of big budget blockbuster films, so it's a different feel than a lot of other stuff. So
Exactly, not the same category. So it'll be different interests, different types of films that are going up against each other here. We also have from Retrotainment, we have Ted.
How you doing? Great to be back again. We all know what's going to win this one, lads. It's quite obvious, but we'll keep the surprise till the end. But we all know what's going to really win.
I don't know. There's a couple of ones here. We do have this list. The way they've all fallen, I don't know which one's going to win, really. And then we have, back as a regular, we have Rob.
Hi, nice to see everybody again. Yeah, I agree with Ted. It's this is and Jen is going to be an interesting one, all right. Of course, Star Wars is going to win, but that's. Yeah, sorry, I can't keep a straight face to say that. But anyway, there you go. Let's go for it.
Well, speaking of Star Wars, Rob, we're going to start off with yourself. It's going to be Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker going up against Avatar.
Oh, okay.
Just if you want The Rise of Skywalker, number 32 against number 1.
Okay.
If you do want to know during this how much they've earned, I have it all pulled up here as well. So if you want that little bit of nugget of information, I can tell you whenever you ask.
Well, I have to admit, out of the latest trilogy, I really enjoyed Rise of Skywalker. It was good fun. You know, and the last trilogy wasn't great, and the prequel trilogy was pretty shit. But I did enjoy it still. But it doesn't beat Avatar. Avatar is like it's a tired old story. It's been told again and again and again, but it was just done with such pizzazz with the special effects and everything was great. So yeah, Avatar for me wins that one.
That's one vote for Avatar. Ted, what way are you going on this one yourself?
I do agree with Rob in that this probably was the best out of the third trilogy of the Star Wars films. I think it was hurt more by the fact that they went one director, a different director, and then back to the first director. I think if they just given if one director had just had the whole thing, I think we would have seen a way more consistent story, but they both had different ideas. And therefore, the first guy laid out his plan. The second guy was like, nah, forget all of that. This is what we're doing. And then they went back to the first guy and he was like, yeah, forget everything he did. And let's get back to where I was going. All right. That being said,
fixing up 2 lines in the movie.
Yeah. That being said, Avatar can go in the bin. I saw Pocahontas when I was a kid and I just watched it again there. I was buzzing for that film when it was coming out. I remember seeing the ads and stuff and I was like, this looks deadly. And then I went to the cinema and all the really good stuff had been in the ads and the rest of it was just crap. And it was 3 hours of crap. And I was just like, this is absolutely brutal. Like, fucking put that in the bin, lads. Don't know how it's the highest grossing film. I don't know how they're going to do Avatar 2 and 3. And
4 and 5.
Yeah, well, however many shit ones they're going to do, right? And also, it took the name Avatar when you could have just given that to, the TV show Avatar and had like a decent film made out of that. So, in the bin with it, right? Rise of the Skywalker, off it goes.
And I think we have our first hashtag of the day. Hashtag Avatar can go in the bin.
In the bin with
it. Jen, you have the deciding vote here.
Oh man, yeah. So clearly, both of these films, they have problems, particularly story-wise. But for me, I think I got to give it to Avatar, just because, like, it was, for the time, it was an event. Like, this is something that clearly was meant to be made to be seen in theaters, which is what we're talking about today, is box office. So, like, that makes sense. Having said that, like, do you go back and revisit it fondly? Not so much, but it is a very serviceable film. There's a lot of cool creatures, and production design is interesting, even though most of it is CGI, but that's kind of the point of the entire exercise. And I will say Zoe Saldana is always great. So like she does a fantastic job. Meanwhile, Rise of Skywalker, I disagree. I think it's the worst of the thirds in the trilogy, personally for me, just because it's such a like Ted mentioned before, of like you had to completely go back on what we just talked about in Last Jedi, which is like that's really not cool to do as a professional director, to just say everything that guy just said is wrong and we're going to do this instead. So it's a shame. I think it does have its moments, and I think a lot of it has to do with the cast, because just the cast of the new Disney trilogy, every single one of them, like they really locked into their roles and they had a lot of fun with it, but they're just given such weird character traits to do in this one. And I feel like they're all scurrying around trying to figure out what can we do. And it's just, there's not a lot going on in Rise of Skywalker for me. It has its moments, but of the two here, if I was asked to go and rewatch one, Avatar would be the one I probably picked, unfortunately. I think I've only seen Rise of Skywalker the one time, and I don't expect on revisiting anytime soon. So, yeah.
Perfect. So that's Avatar going through to the next round, and it'll be up against, and Ted, you can start us off here. It's the Beauty and the Beast remake up against Black Panther.
Oh my God.
I was never a huge fan of Beauty and the Beast as a film in general. It's, you know, like all Disney films have a bit of a questionable story to them, but this one is, you know, this one is just like, this is Stockholm Syndrome, pure and simple. Like, locked in there, and Stockholm Syndrome makes her fall in love with him. That being said, this wouldn't have been something I'd normally watch, but I was on a flight somewhere, and it was the in-flight entertainment I watched. It was actually quite good. It was better than I was expecting it to be fair. It wouldn't have been something I'd have gone, you know, to the cinema to watch, but that's just because it's not one of those films that I'd be too big on. Black Panther, it's strange. In terms of a Marvel film, I think people rate it too highly. In terms of like films in general, I don't think people rate it too highly. So for me, it's Black Panther. I think Black Panther's a better film. But for me, it was just never one of the top Marvel films. Okay. I think he's better in every other film that he's in, like as Black Panther. I think they do better with his character in all of them than they do in the actual Black Panther film.
Okay, that's one for Black Panther. Jen, which way are you voting on this one?
Yeah, this is a very easy decision for me. I hated the Beauty and the Beast live action remake. I absolutely hated it. Like, it's just every choice they made, like they really tried to just completely retread what was there before, and to the point where they're just making weird choices of what they want to really have mirror exactly and what doesn't. Like for me, one of the biggest sequences of the first one that was like a really big cinematic moment is the whole Beauty and the Beast Tale as Old as Time ballroom sequence. Because like if you go back and watch the original, it's beautiful animation and everything, and like they show like the ceiling has this beautiful mural on and everything, and it's sweeping, and you hear Angela Lansbury, and it's all gorgeous. And then you see the live action remake, and for whatever reason, I think it's because it's like the 3D printed CGI and everything, it's ugly as hell. If you go and watch that sequence, it's really hard to like distinguish detail, because I think they really tried to be realistic in their like Baroque stylings and everything of the castle. And it's ugly, and it feels like they completely missed a lot of moments that worked in the original film, but they're trying to retread it, but completely failing. Honestly, the thing I enjoyed the most was Kevin Kline as the father, like, because it was just, I like to see Kevin Kline, and so it was just weird. And yeah, it really hurts me because I love Dan Stevens. So like, I can see him through the CGI, which is interesting. But it's a really, I think, a miss across the board for their live action remakes. That's one of the ones I think they failed the most at. Meanwhile, Black Panther, I love Black Panther. It is like one of my top Marvel films. And I do agree with what Ted said, though, of T'Challa is the weakest link in the film, which is weird. But there's just so many really strong characters around him that it's them that I'm invested in more than him, which is weird, but I still absolutely love the movie. So Black Panther all the way.
That's 2 for Black Panther, so it is going through. I will say with Beauty and the Beast, I thought that Josh Gad and Luke Evans stole the show. I thought they were
Yeah.
fantastic in it. You know, they were both perfectly cast, I think, and as Gaston and LeFou.
And they're getting a
as their
series
egg.
out of it, apparently, or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
some sort of prequel.
Wait, like just a Gaston film?
Yeah.
it's like because like they have the wartime beforehand. It's some kind of thing. They announced it at some Disney stockholders meeting and had them go out and sing. And it's like, you like them, give them something. It's really a weird choice. So I have no idea if that's going to die on impact, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be a weird one. Rob, Black Panther's going through. Is your vote going there as well, or is Beauty and the Beast in with any sort of chance?
Not against Black Panther, let's be honest. But I loved Beauty and the Beast. I really thought that the remake was really good. I thought Emma Thompson was great, or Emma
Watson.
Hermione, what's her name?
Watson.
Watson. I thought she was great.
She was.
I really enjoyed it. I liked all the remakes, bar maybe The Lion King, to be honest. Oh, Dumbo, I didn't like it. But like I thought that was one of the better ones. To be honest. I see our point then, especially the ballroom bit. It was a bit of an anticlimax compared to the animated version, but I really liked it. I thought they were all very good. Luke Evans, I thought was hilarious. It was good fun, and Josh Gad, is that his name? I really liked him too.
So that's 3 for Black Panther.
I liked T'Challa in the areas are coming from there as well. But I thought he could easily get away with a recast as well for the part. I think they should really recast it, and like it's been done before for other, like the Hulk was recast and Rhodey was recast. They could easily recast it. There's no need to do that. It won't take anything away from what Chadwick Boseman did.
Yeah,
That's a debate for a completely other day.
I think we know who the Black Panther's got. I think we know who Black Panther's
Well,
got.
I have to get you bit in.
Next up, Jen, we'll start off with ourselves, and we have an all-animated film here, or all-animated face-off. We have Minions.
Wow, big winner.
Up against Frozen.
Oh, I wonder. Oh my god. Well, see, here's the thing. Both of these films have created a lot of annoyance for parents in their own way. Minions, just because that's the nature of Minions, is to like get on your nerves kind of thing. But Frozen, like, it ushered in this era of little children singing Let It Go at every birthday party and every moment, honestly, of their living life for like an entire year. And it's still a thing. But yeah, Frozen is a beautiful story between sisters, and I think it's animated gorgeously as well. So yeah, it's going to be Frozen. Minions, it's just another one of those cash grab kind of situations. Like, yeah, there are some moments where you're like, yeah, okay, but like that one's another one that this is a franchise strictly going after the children that really love them from the original Despicable Me franchise, which has way more heart than Minions, obviously. But yeah, so Frozen, yeah, easily.
Yeah, I echo your exact sentiments there. Minions was literally just a cash grab, and Frozen kind of started off something.
I mean, it was a cash grab, but it worked because it made the list here. So yeah, good job, guys.
It earned more money than any of the Despicable Me movies did. Minions went in. It's number 21 on the list. And at one stage, it was up as high as number 10. So I mean, that tells you something. That
means we've failed as a society, but that's a whole other thing. So.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? It's 1,159,000,000 in the box office. That's incredible, really. But Rob, what about yourself? Which way are you going?
The first time I watched Frozen, I hated it. I thought it was too soppy and too much music, and I just didn't like it. I think it was the mood I was in at the time, to be honest, because the second time I watched it, I loved it. I really got into it. Haven't watched Minions. Well, I don't know. Maybe I did see some of it, but yeah. No,
it's forgettable, so it's hard to tell. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even remember a scene that I think I did watch it. Well, was that the one where there was like blue Minions as well? evil kind of.
No, that was
that's
Despicable Me
Despicable Me
Me.
3,
I get them
or
all mixed
maybe
up.
I don't know. But
remember.
it's the one. It's
It
like
wasn't that
Sandra
tricky. It
Bullock
wasn't
is
that
like
memorable for
the
me anyway. So
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
Frozen was great.
That's 2 for Frozen. And Ted, what about yourself?
I don't really know. Like Frozen did very, very well at the box office, but like as Jen said earlier, it wasn't created for the box office, which is literally what Minions was literally created to just make money. Like you didn't need there was. I don't even know if there was a story to Minions. If I'm honest, I'm not entirely sure there was a story. It was just
It didn't need to be.
people loved the Minions, and it wasn't just kids. Like it really wasn't. Like there was loads of adults that just fell in love with them.
They're big with boomers for some reason. I don't know what the connection is there, but yeah.
I don't know what the story is, but people loved them, and then they were like, "Great, let's just make a film about it. We don't need to do anything. Like just have like 1 million of them on screen, and that'll do." Like that, and that was it. I don't know. As a box office, it definitely accomplished everything it was meant to accomplish.
Well, while we're speaking on that, like Frozen. It's number 16 on the list now, and made it up as high as number 5 at one stage.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just Frozen. I don't think Frozen was made as a box office. I think it just did surprisingly.
It just did.
Well, not surprisingly well. I suppose it's a Disney film, so it was going to do very well anyway. I think it did surprisingly well for how well it ended up doing, and then what it became. It definitely deserves to go through here, but I don't know if either of these are really big hitters in the end. They did well, but I don't know. I don't think they're going to be big hitters by come the end of this.
That's fair.
Yeah,
so
it didn't last too long.
3 votes for Frozen, is it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Sure, give it to Minions if you want. It doesn't really matter.
Perfect. Next one, we have an all superhero fight, and we'll start off with yourself, Rob. We have Spider-Man: Far From Home going up against the original Avengers.
Okay, you'd have to say the first one again. I didn't get that.
Spider-Man: Far From Home
Oh, against the Avengers.
against the Avengers.
Far From Home.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit. Thank you for putting them together. I love Far From Home. I thought that was one of the best Marvel movies. I really loved it.
Oh, me too.
That was the Mysterio one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really loved it. I thought it was really one of the better ones. I like the Avengers is fabulous. It was the best. It was the first time we'd seen that happen. You know what I mean? Bring them all together. And after all these movies that have come before, and finally Joss Whedon came out and did it right. Oh shit!
I flip a coin.
Spider-Man, because I've watched the Avengers. I loved the Spider-Man one. I really did, and I've seen lately that like people really don't like him. So I really like the latest Spider-Man movies. I think it's the best version of him. The Avengers was brilliant, but no, Spider-Man wins it for me.
That's one.
Vote the Avengers if you like, but Spider-Man for me. I'm giving it there.
Perfect. Ted, which way are you going? I think I know which way from when we did the Marvel one.
I don't. Spider-Man, Marvel were very in the swing of things by the point they got to there. Like they really knew what they wanted to do and where they wanted to go.
Yep.
And you know, not that they never had money behind them, even in the early films, but like now they had a huge budget behind them. They could have done anything they wanted really, and no one would have questioned it. Avengers was a big risk because they'd done well with, you know, their standalone films, bar the Hulk. You know, that didn't do well. The rest of them did quite well. Thor was a bit, but like they did quite well, and then they took a big risk and went, let's try and get them all together. And if that had gone badly,
it would have been done.
That's the end of your franchise. Like you're gone because people won't go back and watch the rest of it. But bringing them all together is a box office idea. You know, you've got loads of really good popular stuff. Mash it all together, and it's going to do well at the box office. Whether that film was shit or not, it was going to do well at the box office because people were going to go see it.
But it was good. Joss Whedon did it right that time.
It was good, yeah. Which thankfully it was good because we got to continue with the Marvel stuff. I definitely think this is the best iteration of Spider-Man in terms of like the character they had, like the actor for Spider-Man. I think he's the best out of a lot of them, really.
I agree.
But I just can't look past Avengers and what it did for Marvel in the end. So for me, it should go through.
Perfect. That's one apiece. So Jen, again, it comes down to yourself for the deciding vote.
See, this is tough because I have a lot of respect for Far From Home because like story-wise, it took some risks that I didn't expect, honestly, at that point. And I was like, this is a very interesting way to go about this storyline for them, just because, like, yeah, as we said, this is something that they clearly by now, they knew what they were doing with the franchise and what they want to tie into other things. But to really like have seeds in films earlier on and then really push forward, I do have a lot of respect for that. And like, Jake Gyllenhaal is always a great choice in any film. So like I think he absolutely nailed it in this one as well.
Except Prince of Persia.
That was not his fault. We'll leave that as a whole other thing. That'd be a hell of a thing if that made the blockbuster list. But yeah, I definitely echo the sentiments that Tom Holland, he is the best Spider-Man. Going back, if like Tobey Maguire, I think he nailed Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield, he had Spider-Man, but Tom Holland, he's got both of them, and he's just a perfect iteration. And it helps that he's actually like the right age, so that helps a lot.
Exactly.
But he just brings a lot of life to the character and everything. But I will say, I do get frustrated with his films just because of the nature of where they are in the franchise now and everything, that it's so Tony Stark heavy that I'm like, I want him to branch out and get his own time to shine, unfortunately. It makes sense. I understand, like, he's a big part of Peter's life and everything, so I understand that, but I'm like, I want to move on. So I'm really excited to see his next iteration. But yeah, I like Far From Home. It's a lot of fun. All the side characters, like Ed, they're all really fun. But Avengers, yeah, like Ted said, like we wouldn't even have a Far From Home if Avengers didn't take off. So like it was a landmark event of the time that so many other studios and franchises have like seen this is what works and this is what we're trying to recreate. And yeah, Joss Whedon, like he's done some shitty stuff, but he like every once in a while he knows what he's doing, and he's really good at creating teams and bringing everything together. And I will say the original Avengers, if you go back now, the way that it's shot, like the cinematography and everything, I think it hasn't aged particularly well, but it's still like for the characters and the dialogue and seeing them all in the room for the same time, like at the same time for the first time, it's still phenomenal. It's endlessly quotable, and it's just a great way to kick off this universe that has become like the one movie franchise that everyone is aware of, whether you want to be or not. So yeah, for me, I gotta go Avengers, but a lot of respect for Far From Home.
Perfect. That's Avengers going through to the next round. And speaking of superhero films, a while back on the Sherlock Reel, we did the best Marvel films of all time. So it was all the MCU, and we had other Marvel films that was out there as well. So like Spider-Man and Fantastic Four and stuff. And the winner of that was Avengers Infinity War. So Ted, it's going to be Avengers Infinity War up against Skyfall.
Ooh.
I'm not a big
very
James
different.
Bond guy. Yeah, I'm not
very
a big
different
James
films.
Bond. Yeah, I'm not a big James Bond guy. Big Marvel guy. So for me, it's not a hard one. But Skyfall did do very well for itself. But I like how did that do in comparison to
Infinity War? Well,
or Infinity War, sorry.
Infinity War is number 5 on the list. It's made just over 2 billion. And then we have Skyfall, who's number 28 on the list, was number 7 at once, and it's made 108 million.
Yeah,
so only $1 billion difference.
Yeah, only $1 billion.
It's only a small amount. No, even that, like, I'm not going to base my picks off that, because I don't think that really matters in terms of like which one is the best film either. But
Yeah.
James Bond has done very well to survive the test of time. And like, as I said, I'm not a big James Bond guy, but the ads for the latest film, that looks really good. So I'm probably going to go see that. I don't know. Does that mean I need to watch Skyfall?
If it ever comes out.
Yeah, if it ever comes out. But I don't know. Does that mean I need to watch Skyfall? I haven't watched Skyfall because it just didn't interest me. Yeah, it didn't interest me massively, so I probably will need to watch it. But it's not going to go past Infinity War for me anyway. So.
Perfect. Jan, do you agree?
Yeah, so I'm not a big James Bond fan. However, I will say Skyfall is like the one that really works for me. And I think a lot of it has to do with the director, Sam Mendes. Like, he took a whole different view on the character, really, because like it is odd because the Daniel Craig era, like, you started with Casino Royale, which is also great. And you're like introducing him and they're like, oh, he's like this young hotshot things. And you get one kind of dip in the Quantum of Solace, which is very similar to like most Bond films of just trying to get through some stuff. But then you hit Skyfall and the whole theme of that is like old dog kind of thing. And it's like over the course of 3 films, he went from rookie to veteran that maybe is getting too old for this kind of shit. So it's really odd, but it definitely works for me. So I absolutely love Skyfall, and it has some gorgeous cinematography. Roger Deakins is the master. So yeah, I think it's one of the moments where for James Bond, it's actually treating him as a person with a history, which most of the rest of the franchise doesn't really do. So it was a very interesting way of approaching this character of he actually has a backstory. It's not just he's a womanizer that kills people and like makes quippy things. He does still make quips throughout the film. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool action and it's really fun. And oh my God, I can't remember her name right now, but I love her. They introduced like new iterations of characters and everything. Moneypenny, Judi Dench is there clearly. And Ray Fiennes, which is always great to see him whenever. Yes. I can't believe it took them that long to put him in. Like, he's one of the premier Brit actors, and it took them that long to put him in James Bond. But I'm glad he's there now. So, yeah, Skyfall, I highly recommend. Infinity War, I do love it. Obviously, I'm a big Marvel fan. But, yeah, for me, Infinity War, it was another one of those things where a lot of puzzle pieces that you got to put together, and I'm impressed with the way that they did it. However, at the same time, I will say that there are moments of storyline that's very repetitive. And that's just kind of how it has to be, because there's a series of like Thanos approaching someone and be like, give me this or I'll hurt this person. And it does happen like multiple times in the film. And it kind of bothers me by like the 3rd time. And I'm like, okay, we got to keep moving. But like, that's most Marvel comics to begin with. So like, that's just comes with the nature of the thing. But yeah, I like Infinity War, but Skyfall is like the only time that I'm like, I might really like James Bond. So I think I got to give it to Skyfall for that.
That's one for Skyfall. Perfect. Rob, you have the final decision here. Is it Infinity War or Skyfall?
It's a tough one. Skyfall, I loved. It's probably one of Daniel Craig's best. Then again, it was Javier Bardem that's kind of stole the show. You know, his long monologue about the rats was just one of the best scenes I've seen in a Bond movie ever. He's not such the womanizing cat anymore. You know what I mean? That will kill you. They certainly put a lot more into his character. You know, like but I don't know. Like, I'm a big fan of both genres. You know, like I love Bond. I've loved Bond since I was a kid. Daniel Craig, you know, I think he's better than Connery, who's always been Bond. You know, yeah. Well, like Infinity War was so good. It was you know, but between the 2 movies, you get to see 2 different versions of Thanos because of the different timelines, and where you understand them in the Infinity War so much, where you know they turn him into the baddie in the second.
Yeah.
But the first one, for the hero wise, there it's it's the setup. You know what I mean? The first movie is just kind of setting them all up for the second one. So I kind of prefer Endgame. So I'll go with Bond. I think Skyfall deserves to go through for another round. Yeah. I love Bond, and that's one of the best Bond movies I've ever seen, to be honest. And that's out of 20 odd movies, so yeah.
Perfect.
No, I'll go with Skyfall.
That's Skyfall going through. Now, I will say, I was expecting Infinity War to go through a bit further in this, but I am a little happy that it's gone out because, as I've said here previously, eventually I'm going to do one of these tournaments with all previous winners. And now that a previous winner is out, I'm happy.
You get a heavy hitter in there now.
Exactly. So Jen, we're going to start off with yourself on this one, and it's another superhero film in here, another MCU. It's Iron Man 3 up against Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Oh, this is interesting because these are both like kind of just the end result of both kind of franchises. And it's like, did you care for the ending? And for me, like Iron Man 3 didn't hit quite as hard for me. I know like for some people it's like their favorite one because it's like Shane Black and it's such a different take on it and everything. But for me, I love Shane Black so much that actually when I watched this film, I was like, I've seen this character before and it's Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and I love that film and now I'm seeing it again and it's like so it didn't hit quite the same for me. But I respect what they decided to do with the storyline. So like it is an interesting thing to do with the Tony character and it made sense for what they had already done going up to it. But at the same time, Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2, we said 2, right? It's the very final one.
Final one.
I honestly think I've only seen this all the way through once because it's such a freaking saga because it really is like just the battle. Like that is the whole film is the battle at the end. And I'm like, do I really want to sit and put myself through seeing some of these characters that I grew up with die because J.K. Rowling wants to see me cry. So I'm like, I don't know. So I think for that, even though like story-wise, I probably would prefer Deathly Hallows Part 2, but I'm thinking of it more as the book, and I think like Deathly Hallows as a whole, if it was as a whole, I would go with that. But just because I think as a standalone film, it doesn't quite stand up as like an actual storyline. It's more of just like, this is what happened kind of thing, and you don't really get a lot of chance to really see the characters in the way that you want to because they're all just kind of struggling to survive. So for that reason, I think I'm going to go Iron Man 3, which I never would have thought that I would have done that. So, yeah.
I'm a little bit surprised at you, Dad.
I don't know. If it was like any other Harry Potter movie, I'd be like, yeah, Harry Potter, yeah. So, I don't
know. Rob, what about yourself?
Again, another tough one. I think I'm a big Harry Potter fan. I loved it. And the last one I've watched a few times. There's so many great scenes. I love Ron's mum attacking Bellatrix. Not that you stay away from my daughter. It was a great scene. I think I was in the cinema and I was sitting on the edge of my seat. My girlfriend was staring at me, thinking, "What should I do?" But I was loving it. I'm a big Iron Man fan as well. So this is awful. I don't know which one I'd enjoy more. I think I'll have to go with Iron Man 3. I don't really want to see that go. I know what Jen's saying, that if it was the two movies, maybe, if the two Harry Potter movies, the last two together, it'd be a different thing, but it's only half of it.
True.
So I'll go with Iron Man. I think Iron Man I enjoyed more, really, in the end.
I'm surprised at that. I thought Harry Potter would be going through this one here. Ted, which way would you have gone here?
I'm disgusted with this. The worst of the Iron Man films. The worst of the Iron Man.
I agree with you. It's not my favorite, but I don't know.
Number 2 is worse.
No, this is the worst of the Iron Man films. The worst of them.
The second is definitely the worst.
No.
I love Sam Rockwell so much that I can't just throw it out. Like I have to watch it for Sam Rockwell, which I hope they bring him back at some point because he's so great.
No, worst of the Iron Man films, right? And I get what I get what you're about saying that like
Iron Man 3 is that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man
the
3.
worst of the
Yeah,
Iron Man
Iron Man
films.
3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the worst.
Sam Rockwell wasn't in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, we were talking about Iron Man 2. Yeah.
He was in
Yeah.
the second one.
Yeah, that's because Iron Man 3 might be good if he was in it, but he's not. That's why it's the worst of them. You see, the Harry Potter. Yeah, obviously, Harry Potter. They decided to split the 7th book into 2 films because
There's so
partially
much.
because there was so much to do, and partially because they didn't want the franchise to end, and they knew they could get 2 blockbusters out of it. That's the real reason it was split into 2. It wasn't like you could have put all that into one film. People will say, well, people wouldn't have sat down and watched a 3-hour film. Lord of the Rings were all 3 hours, and nobody complained when they sat down to watch them. And then Zack Snyder's cut, 4 hours. People sat down and watched that, no problem. Like, if people are into something, they will sit down and watch it. And Harry Potter, people would have sat down and watched. That was a money grab to split it into 2. It was a money grab to split that into 2. But the fact is that, like, that was still a better film than Iron Man 3. Like, it was
I 100% agree.
so much better. Now, there's loads of stuff in it that I disagree with because I've read the book, and I think there's things they left out that was, really detrimental to the film to leave out. But at the same time, I can't believe it's getting knocked out for Iron Man 3. If it had been getting knocked out by, like, Avengers or something big, I'd be willing to accept it. But I cannot believe that Iron Man 3, let's repeat this, Iron Man 3, the shittest of the Iron Man films, knocks out Harry Potter.
Some people love it. Some people absolutely love it. It's their first one, like their favorite one. I don't understand that.
Some people loved Minions, and that was shit as well. Like, all right, I'm not taking this. Some people loved it, crack. Right?
Here's the thing. Like, I think my main problem with Deathly Hallows Part 2 is both the epilogue with the really shitty aging makeup CGI technology thing. I hate the epilogue so much, and also just everything they decided to do for the staging for the big battle between Voldemort and Harry. It's weird. Like they were like, we have a bunch of different sets that we want to show off, so they have them keep like pseudo apparating to different parts of the castle and like jumping and doing that weird flying thing that they're not supposed to be able to do, but everyone can do it now. So like that really took me out of it, and I'm like, this is the climax, and I'm getting upset because the set designer wants to show off their work. So I think that's a major part of why I do not connect with Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Well, that's like a reason not to connect with any of the Harry Potters. Like, all of them are very like discrepancy like bound, every one of them. But I still enjoy them. I can't believe Iron Man 3 is managing to knock this out.
It will not last long, trust me.
Just breathe, Ted. Just breathe.
This is like when Clerks got knocked out in the comedy one. Like
who did that?
Yeah, exactly. Who did that? People like you and Rob, like knocking Clerks out in comedy things, like.
It was not just that; it was 90s comedies.
And Mallrats.
90s comedies.
It was specifically 90s comedies, and you knocked out Clerks.
I didn't knock out Clerks or Mallrats. I didn't knock them out. The Mask somehow managed to knock them out, and I'm glad that I finally brained that out with Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, The Mask. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, exactly. The Mask. Yeah.
Somebody stop me. All right.
Yep. So next up, and we're going to start off with your who do we start? Yes, sorry, Jen. Start off with yourself.
Sure.
It's Furious 7 up against Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Oh wow.
Two very different
movies be any different? Like, wow. Okay. Oh man.
What movies? Can you say that again? You froze there for a bit.
It's Furious 7 against Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
7 Fast, 7 Furious.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, all right.
That's the one.
Oh, this is rough. I assume there's other Fast and Furious films on the list, but I don't know.
There's
one other. All right. Yeah, like I absolutely love the Fast and Furious franchise. It took me a really long time to get onto it because I just assumed that like I saw the trailers before and I was like, this looks like a shitty remake of Point Break, which the first one, that's what it is exactly. But like I finally sat down when Furious 7 was coming out because I was like, this is a franchise that's like, it is trucking and it's not going away anytime soon. I was like, I need to see what the big fuss is about. So I went back and I watched all of them, and like by the third film I was like, okay, I kind of love these and these are great. So I absolutely do love them. And Furious 7 was another great film. It's not my favorite, but what they did in terms of having to deal with Paul Walker's death and everything was a great way to like send it off and really bring some even more heart to the franchise than what was already there before. And like they always talk about family, and like it is a family. The cast behind these films, like it's a beautiful atmosphere and everything. So I do love Furious 7, but it's Return of the King. Like this Lord of the Rings. I absolutely love Lord of the Rings, and Return of the King, again, not my favorite of the three, but like it is once again just the entire production design. And this is another one of like there was so much that they had to get through. And it's just done beautifully, and it's a phenomenal cast and everything. So, and it won, the most Oscars of all time with 11 or whatever. So yeah, like it did that for a reason. And that was a huge deal that film did that, because the Academy does not like fantasy movies. They do not like sci-fi movies. So to see something like that get the recognition that it definitely deserved from the production team, it kind of opened the door for other things to get nominations down the road, like Black Panther that we talked about earlier. So it really brought in this new era of trying to take films from different genres more seriously from like a critical perspective. So I can't not vote for Return of the King.
Perfect. That's one vote for Return of the King. What I will say, Return of the King is the second oldest film on this list.
Wow.
Of the 32. So 2003 is the second oldest film on the list. And Furious 7, while I'm giving out statistics, is now at number 9. It was at one stage number 4. It's earned over $1.5 billion. While Lord of the Rings at one stage was number 2, but is now down at number 24, and was just over 1,100,000. So I'm sure if just for inflation, it would be a lot higher, but we're not doing that here. So Rob, which way are you voting? If you can hear me, Rob.
I Fast and Furious. I remember sitting down to watch the first one, and I turned it off after about 10 minutes. I thought, this is the biggest load of crap I've ever seen in my life. Then I watched the second one, and I started to realise what it was all about. And I went back and watched the first one, and I really enjoyed it, because I just knocked my brain off for an hour and a half and just got into it. And it's the same with the rest of them. They're all crap. Great crap, but crap. And it's great to just chill out, watch it, get the adrenaline going, and it's all this fast cars and hot women and stunts, and like it's rubbish though. So like Lord of the Rings is a great movie. Again, I agree with Jen. It's the Return of the King is the weakest of the trilogy. The second one I think is probably the best. It won its Oscars for the whole thing and for what it had undertaken, I think. They didn't win it really for that movie. But Lord of the Rings has to win it, because Fast and Furious shit, really. Really enjoyable shit. Shit.
So that's Lord of the Rings is going through. Ted, are you going to vote in the same way?
Yeah, like the first Fast and Furious I ever saw was Tokyo Drift, which I think is like number 4.
The worst one. That's number 3.
That is a weird one to come in on, because like they're not in it. Like it's not the people.
Yeah. I had no idea.
Last 30 seconds.
Someone was like, "Oh, we're going to cinema. Do you want to go?" I was like, "Yeah." What do we got to say? Tokyo Drift. I said, "I don't know what that is. I'll go see it." It was, as Rob said, it's fine. Like, turn your brain off and just watch it. They drive loads of cars really fast. It's pretty good. I enjoyed that. I did enjoy the little part of where he holds up the speedometer, and it's from The Simpsons, where he's like, no, someone going that fast can't afford a ticket. All right, so that's basically what that was there. Like, he's going too fast. That's not even bother. Like, just like how fast he's going. There's no point in stopping him. Like, but then the next one I seen was, I think, the most recent one, Furious Fast, 9 Fast, 9 Furious.
Shaw or Fate of the Furious?
Fate of the Furious.
9 Fast, 9 Furious, the one with Roman Reigns and The Rock in it.
Oh, that's Hobbs and Shaw.
That's Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, 9
That's
Fast,
a
9 Furious,
spin-off,
whatever it
technically.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're all spin-offs as far as I'm concerned, because I've only seen those two.
The wheels
So
spin. So.
they're the only two I've seen, so the rest of them are the spin-offs. Lord of the Rings, the best one is the Twin Towers. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the best one. Return of the King's quite good. It's just I think the battle scene in Helm's Deep was just too difficult to beat.
They set the bar too high. That's the problem.
I think when Tolkien wrote the books, I think he got to Helm's Deep, wrote it really, really well, and then he had to try and top it, and he was just never going to, because that battle was just like, even in the books, that's the best battle of the lot, without a shadow of a doubt. And he probably should have tried to keep something like that till later. And maybe had that be in like Gondor or something. I don't know. But yeah, the second one's definitely the best of them. It didn't do as well at the box office because obviously the first one piqued some people's interest that they went to the second one, and the second one got everyone so interested that everyone then went back and watched the first one. And then everyone had to go see the third one because you've watched the first two, sort of thing. But it definitely goes through here over 9 Fast, 9 Furious. And I'm still annoyed that they went with Too Fast, Too Furious, which, made sense because, second film, Too Fast, Too Furious, great idea. Why didn't they just keep going with that?
Didn't make sense then.
Because they wanted to get to Fate of the Furious. That's what they wanted. They were like, I got a plan for the 8th one. And then after that, they're like, I don't care anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, but they should have just stuck with that. And then for the 8th one, did something different and then just gone back to it. Cause, like, anyone I know who's watched them just refers to them like that.
Yeah.
For money. It's all rubbish. It's just for money. They're great. Like, I love them. Don't get me wrong. But, like, it's crap. Like, even the whole... Like when Brian died and they're all standing there, and they're all giving him their farewell. Like, it's just such macho shit. It really is. I love it. But it's crap.
Speaking of crap, we have Transformers Age of Extinction.
Oh, ugh.
Up against Star Wars The Force
Awakens. That was gone. Yeah. Like, Star Wars wins that.
Okay, let's move over Star Wars. Ted?
Yeah, sorry. I don't even know which Star Wars it is. It could be fucking the Phantom Menace. Well, actually, to be fair, if it was the Phantom Menace, I would still vote for it because the Phantom Menace is actually deadly. But I don't care what Star Wars it is. It can go past this Transformers. Perfect. The first Transformers was pretty good, but
yeah,
kind of went downhill from there.
Age of Extinction, I never even bothered with. I think that's the one that has the Dinobots finally. But other than that, I have no idea what the plot's about. I have not made it past the third film, which broke my brain, and then I came back for Bumblebee because I like Haley Steinfeld. So, yeah, I haven't even bothered with it. I do have to at some point because now if you watch the Schmodown, it's an Intergeekdom category, so I do have to watch them at some point. But today is not that day, and yeah, so automatically, no matter what went up against this, it was going to win. So yeah, apparently it's Force Awakens. So there you go.
Force Awakens gone through, nice and easy.
I'm sad that the dinosaur one is the one that I haven't seen, though. To be fair,
yeah,
it should be it sounds like it'll be deadly, but
I'd like to see some Dinobots. That's like
this movie. I set in the cinema to watch this. It's 3 hours long. The Dinobots come in at 2 hours and a half in, and they're on screen. They're on screen for 5 minutes total.
Maybe. Oh God. Okay.
Right.
So now I'm really glad that
I'm glad I didn't watch it then. Good.
Yeah, it's awful. Next up, we have a really weird one. Okay, and Ted, we're going to start off with yourself. It's Titanic up against The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight Rises. Apologies, Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, very different. Okay.
Very different.
Dark Knight Rises. Fuck Titanic, I'm sick of it. That film. To be fair, Titanic is very, very good. To be fair to it, I'm just sick of it. And if I had to choose to watch one or the other ever, if someone said to me, like, you have to pick one of those and it's the only film you can watch again for the rest of your life, I genuinely think The Dark Knight Rises would be more interesting to watch over and over and over and over again than Titanic would be.
Either of those scenarios sounds like a nightmare to me. So,
yeah. In fairness,
I
this
don't know.
is like
I liked Bane. To be fair, I thought Bane was
I
quite good in
hated
it.
Bane. I thought he was the worst part of the movie. I like
No, I thought he was pretty
I
good.
I thought he was terrible. I'm not the biggest fan of Tom Hardy. I actually haven't seen a film with
Oh,
Tom Hardy that I
oh, you break my
enjoy.
heart. Oh my
I
god.
don't like anything that he's in. I don't like him as an actor, and I don't understand the hype. I really don't. And this was one of his worst performances of them. I really dislike him. It brought this film from such a great trilogy. It brought it down so much in my estimation.
I think
I
the biggest hit to this film is the fact that Heath Ledger had passed away, and they
Yeah.
lost the fact that he was to then be, the
the
judge.
overarching villain, yeah.
Yeah, like he was to be the judge at the end of it, and they lost that. And there's nothing you can do about that, so they just went with what they could.
True.
But yeah, I still think this is definitely way better than Titanic, and I still like I enjoyed that trilogy. I think this is arguably possibly like the best trilogy DC has done. Definitely the modern iteration of DC.
Yeah, that's fair. Jen, which way are you going on this one?
Here's the thing. I absolutely hate The Dark Knight Rises. It is the
Thank
whole
you.
reason. It's the whole reason I'm here, honestly, because I went and saw it with people, and everyone else loved it, and I absolutely hated it, and I was confused as to why I would have such a disparate viewpoint of everyone else. So I went to the internet trying to find some people that agreed with me, and I found the Schmoes Know, and I've done the Schmodown, and that's why I'm all here. So thank you for that, Dark Knight Rises. But other than that, I hate this film. Like every decision in it just seems so odd to me. Like when they send every single cop in Gotham into the sewer to get stuck there, I was like, what are we doing? Like there's so many like little things that it's like, well, if we do this, then we can do this. And it really bothers me that that's like how they kind of set up this entire thing. I will say I love Tom Hardy, and I think he does a great job with the character of Bane. However, I hate that they completely neuter him in the finale when they finally reveal the Talia al Ghul thing, because it turns him everything that he did up until that moment, it undercuts it. Because up until that moment, he was like similar to the Joker. He's this agent of chaos trying to create like justice in his own mind by like kind of leveling the playing field and everything. But then you find out, oh no, he's just doing whatever she said because he loves her. And that is awful. And I absolutely hate it. But like, I will say like Anne Hathaway does a great job with the character. She's no Michelle Pfeiffer, but like her stuff is pretty strong. Her and Christian Bale, I think they do have a nice rapport. But everything with Joseph Gordon-Levitt just feels completely oddball to me. Gary Oldman makes a lot of weird choices in this one. Like, granted, I think it's the first time they really gave him some stuff to do, but he's just like really angry all the time in this film. I'm like, okay, I wouldn't have read the line like that. But yeah, I do not care for The Dark Knight Rises at all. Meanwhile, Titanic, yeah, it is a bit of a slog to get through because it's a long film. But I think James Cameron, like, he put a lot of work into the production and design and really trying to make it feel as realistic as possible. And Kate Winslet, particularly Kate Winslet, DiCaprio, this is not my favorite role of his, but I think this was something that launched her career, and she's just done so many great things from there. And yeah, it's really fun. So yeah, like it's not a feel-good film, but there are definitely moments in there that still hit today if you go back and watch it. It's definitely not a rewatchable movie by any means. So either of those scenarios of having to watch these over and over again, I would probably be like, I don't think I can watch a movie ever again. So yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Rob, which way are you going in here? Bear in mind, Titanic is number 3 on the list still. It is the oldest film on the list, 1997. The first film in history to reach over 2 billion in the box office. Still sitting pretty at number 3. So with that in mind, which way are you going?
Well, The Dark Knight Rises is probably the weakest of the trilogy, let's be honest.
Well, that's not in question.
I like Bane, to be honest. I'm not a big Tom Hardy fan. I think he's either really good or really bad, and generally he's really bad. For me, anyway, I only watched Legend the other night. I thought that was probably one of his best roles. But there you go. But I don't particularly like him. And you're right, all the shit about the cops and all the crap on Batman, and it was just dragged on. It was really like Nolan just kind of threw it together. He didn't put as much thought into it as he did. He kind of lost when Heath Ledger died. It was like he just kind of lost it and just threw whatever he could into it to try and make it interesting. So where Titanic, especially at the time when Titanic came out, when did you say what year did it come out?
97.
97. It was such a big thing. The likes of those special effects were only being used. You know, it was brilliant. I think I sat through it 3 times, which I you know, you hadn't really seen 3-hour-long movies at that stage. I really enjoyed it. The special effects were amazing. The story was great. She could have moved over a piece of wood and let him up on it. But even that, I thought it was. So there was room enough for 2. So yeah, no, I'd have to go with Titanic. If it was The Dark Knight, it'd be a different thing. But Dark Knight Rises kind of
True.
take it or leave it.
Titanic gone through to the next round. And it just coincidentally, it ends up this way again. Jen, you have an all animated film to vote on here.
Yay.
It's Frozen 2 up against The Incredibles 2.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I will say for both of these films, they do not hit nearly as hard as the originals did for either one of them.
Very true.
Having said that, I think I got to give it to Frozen 2 just because while I don't agree with every choice they made, and if you've seen the behind the scenes documentary style series thing on Disney Plus, there's a lot of weird stuff that they were trying to do, and it's like one of those like I can't believe they failed this hard to get like a good film out of it. But yeah, I definitely recommend going and checking that out. I think I enjoyed that more than the actual film. But Frozen 2, even though it was a complete mess behind the scenes, it did succeed in like really expanding the world and creating this lore that wasn't necessarily there in the first film. Meanwhile, Incredibles 2, it had to kind of like retread over what we already did before so well, and then also just kind of fall back on these silly little like Mr. Mom type jokes and everything, which they're still funny, but I do really enjoy the villain character that they created for Incredibles 2. But other than that, like it was nice to see Elastigirl get to do something on her own, and I think the design of her specifically, her little motorcycle and all that whole chase scene, like that's cool. That's brilliant. I love that. But the movie as a whole, it doesn't hit nearly as hard as the first one does. So for me, I gotta go Frozen 2, even though I don't expect it to go very far here.
Frozen 2. Now, like with these films, like I prefer Incredibles over Frozen, but Frozen 2 myself, if you're putting those 4 films together, it would be Incredibles, Frozen 2, Incredibles 2. That's just the way I think it would be. Like I think like Frozen 2, I mean, I brought my sister-in-law to it. She's only 10, or she was 8 or 7 at the time, and we came out of the film just screaming like Olaf. You know, it is a really kids film, and those songs, you can use those songs in so many things to help and teach kids about feelings and all that type of thing. I think it did a lot. I think all the songs basically had a different meaning to it to try and get them through something. Myself, I prefer Frozen 2 and Incredibles 2. But Rob, what do you think yourself?
You know, I've seen both of them, and I can't really remember much about either of them, which is really unusual for me because I love my movies, and I can't remember too much of it. I don't know. I remember really enjoying Frozen 2, and like I loved what Elastigirl could do. I kind of remember thinking I'd love to see Mr. Fantastic do something like that in the movies, you know, and actually use his powers rather than just stretch an arm out here and there, but actually let him see what he can do, you know what I mean? Like Elastigirl, she was brilliant in it. But they're both forgettable. I agree with everything is all said, but the first ones were brilliant compared to them. Hard to pick. I'd probably go Frozen. It was a little bit more memorable. A little bit
Perfect.
more memorable.
Perfect. Frozen 2 goes through. Ted, would you vote the same way?
I don't really know, to be honest. Like Frozen 2 was quite short coming out after Frozen. So for me, they should have been able to, not make such a forgettable film after having one of their most successful films in a very long, most successful new films in a very long time.
Yeah.
All of Disney's other success is based off the back of, live animation of old films and stuff. So this was the first one that they'd kind of done that did really well for itself, and then they managed to just make a forgettable second one. And I think that's kind of because they were just like, no matter what we do in this, it's going to make money because the first one did so well and it was so popular. So everyone's just going to go see it anyway. So it doesn't matter.
It was all about the deadline. They were like, we just need to make sure we have something to put in the theater by this point because it will make money no matter what. So that's a shame. That's not the way to be creative. So
yeah. I think then Incredibles 2, I think
The part I remember is the whole when she's running out into the sea and freezing the waves and that in front of her.
Yeah, that's like the only footage they had. But when that teaser first came out, that was all they had, and it was like, that looks great, but it was like, we have no story right now. Like we have this one piece of animation. So
that'll sell it.
Yeah, see, I think that was kind of the problem, that they should have been able to do something good with that. Incredibles had the difficult task of having had a really good film 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then being like, what do we do now? Do we just pretend that it hasn't been 10 years and leave the kids as the age they were? Or do we age everyone and, try and build a story around that, which is what they tried to do. They were like, superheroes have now become looked down upon legal because of like it's all that
Watchmen.
stuff. And then I think they did a very good job with the bad guy for Incredibles 2, and then some of the animation is very good for like Elastigirl and stuff. So I'd probably have gone with that just because I think they had the more difficult job and they actually went with creating a story, whereas Frozen were just like, we're gonna make money, just put something out. Who cares if it's good or bad? But realistically, neither of them are going to go that far, and both would have got knocked out by pretty much anything else, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, who was the bad guy in Incredibles? I can't even remember.
The hypnotizing.
The actual name that they give the villain is the Screen Slayer, I think.
That's it. Yeah.
You're right. That.
You're right.
And it's a really cool design, but they had the whole thing where it was creating like epileptic seizures because it was a lot of flashy things because it's supposed to be like hypnotism and everything. It's like, maybe this was not the best idea, but it does look really striking when you're in the theater. But yeah.
Rob, we'll go for yourself here. We have Captain America Civil War going up against Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Okay, Captain America Civil War. Jurassic World. It just didn't do it for me. It's just the same rehashed crap again. Running from dinosaurs. Whether they change the dinosaur or not, they change who's running. They're all running from dinosaurs. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. They put it back in the park again. Like, from where they seem to be going with the story now, I want to see dinosaurs with machine guns on their back.
Wait, is it Fallen World's the second one, isn't it?
Fallen Kingdom is the one that ends up in a mansion.
Which one is it?
It was the second one of the new lot.
Fallen Kingdom is the volcano to the mansion. That's what it is.
Yeah. Rubbish. Yeah, it was rubbish.
The first 15 minutes were the best part of that movie.
Civil War was great. For what they did with Civil War and introduced Spider-Man into it, and it was like Captain America was probably the best trilogy out of the whole MCU.
Yeah.
It was great. It's just Jurassic Park. It's just Jurassic Park. I'm sick of second dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs. I'd love to see them. They seem to be going where they're going to change them and they'll be riding on their backs and they'll be shooting cannons and have
maybe the next one
bloody guns on the back of them. Yeah, that'd be great.
Dinosaurs.
But that's rubbish. Yeah, Civil War, hands down.
Perfect. Heather, would you have gone the same way?
Yeah, no, it is Civil War. I love dinosaur films. I think they're great fun. And even though it is always the same story, like somebody creates dinosaurs get loose, dinosaurs fuck everything up. You know, pretty basic story. I still enjoy that. I still like seeing dinosaurs running around and wrecking everybody. But you know, Civil War is one of the best Marvel films. Like, not just, you know, the best Captain America or anything like that. It's just one of the best, hands down. So yeah, it has to go through pretty easily here.
Winter Soldier now. Winter Soldier, I think, is probably the best.
Yeah, Winter Soldier is definitely up there as well. But like, I think, you know, in standalone films themselves, like they're all very, very strong. The Jurassic Parks. I love Jurassic Parks, and I would sit there if someone put that on. I'd sit down and watch it, no problem, no questions, because I'll enjoy it. But and I mean, like, if someone actually created a Jurassic Park, like, as much as I know it, I would.
I may die, but I'm going.
Like, if they said to me, like, listen, we need someone to come visit, like, yeah, I'm in. Yeah. No, you need to sign this waiver.
You gotta die sometime. Might as well make a story out of it.
You're probably gonna die, like, because, you know, they're gonna get out. I'd be like, yeah, no, I know they're gonna get out, but like, I still like, I still want to go. Like, where do I sign up? Yeah, just let me go. Just if I die, I die. It's fine. Like, I just want to see the dinosaur. Yeah.
Perfect. Jen, would you have gone the same way?
Yeah, I definitely, like, Civil War is the better of the two films. I will say I'm a big fan of the Jurassic Park franchise, and I probably like Fallen Kingdom more than most people do. I understand it's complete nonsense and everything story-wise. I like it more than
most as well, I think.
Yeah, but like it was a cool exercise. This is the one that it's kind of the oddball of the franchise, just because, like, it literally it does start with one of the best dino sequences of all time for the franchise. If you haven't seen it, the first 15 minutes alone, you don't even have to watch the rest of the movie, honestly. But yeah, like, it's the volcano stuff is the stuff that really bothers me the most, when Chris Pratt is all, like, paralyzed and, like, rolling away from lava that's like 2 inches away from his face, and he's fine. That's the thing that bothers me the most. Once we get to the mansion, like, that's a whole other kind of claustrophobic atmosphere that they haven't really dealt with outside of, like, the kitchen scene in the original film. So, like, it was like a whole hour of that, and it's very different. So I do appreciate that. And I will say, J.A. Bayona, he directed the shit out of this film. The plot is stupid, but he does it very well in terms of creating the tension and everything. So he's a great director. I'm glad that he got something that was a big budget film to really showcase his talents, even though the story itself is nonsense. Meanwhile, Civil War, yeah, it is a great it's building on all the other films that are around it, but as a standalone, I really appreciate it because it's one of the few ones that really dives headfirst into the dynamics of the group and how they relate to one another, and it really just introducing Tom Holland's Spider-Man and T'Challa. Like we were saying before, like, T'Challa's not that interesting in Black Panther because they did such a good job of introducing him in this film. So yeah, it's really cool. I like seeing the split, and honestly, this is one of, like, Marvel's, like, most favorite, like, one of the top favorite storylines in Marvel Comics. So obviously, once they announced it, like, at Comic-Con, people were like, this is going to be amazing. So, like, yeah, it had a lot of hype to live up to, and it definitely succeeded, in my opinion. So
definitely. Perfect. And perfect. So that's Civil War gone through. We can't get away from Jurassic World because Ted, Jurassic World is back, but this time it might actually go through because it's against Transformers: Dark of the Moon.
Big old dinosaurs wrecking the shop. Bring them back. Let's go.
Yep. That's one for Jurassic World. Jen, would you have gone the same? Do you go the same way?
Yeah, I will say, like, Jurassic World, when I initially saw it, I did have a lot of problems just because I'm such a big fan of Jurassic Park franchise that I'm like, I think that they're leaning a little too much into the nostalgia and really going after it's like, remember this thing? It's all like the member berries kind of thing. If you've seen the South Park thing with JJ, like there's a lot of that going on, but at the same time, there's some great sequences of action and everything, and the characters are kind of one note. But it's still like, this is just one of those, like, just shovel some popcorn in and have fun with it kind of movies. So I definitely appreciate Jurassic World. It's not my favorite. It probably is my least favorite, honestly, of the franchise. But it's still, it's Transformers. And of the ones I've seen, Dark of the Moon is the most forgettable. It's the third one.
Oh, it's
the third one.
Okay.
It's Shia's last one. So the only thing I remember from this is the one that had a shot that was like 1 second shot that was millions of dollars just because he really wanted to see a transformation of a girl's face turning into like a Decepticon, and it's like, did we need to spend $1 million on this? No. So like that's like the thing that I remember from this film. I could not tell you what the actual storyline is. So like it's clearly it is not memorable at all. But yeah, dinosaurs over robots any day. So
definitely. Rob, are you going the same way?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I like Jurassic World. I like the third Jurassic movie. I thought that was probably one of the better ones. I when they rebooted it with this, I was hoping it was going to be someone else, and they seem to be going a certain way, and then you have to sit through another 2.5 hours or whatever, and still not get to where it was hinting to go. So maybe if they make a third one, it might actually finally get there.
And they're filming it. They're on
they're working on it. Yeah.
Are they working on it? Yeah. But Transformers is just crap. Like I think Bumblebee was probably the best Transformer movie and the most pure Transformer movie that they've made. Yeah. It was the closest to what they originally looked like anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, so, 100%. Perfect. So that's Jurassic World going through the next round. So Jen, we'll start this one off with yourself. It's The Fate of the Furious.
Yes.
Up against, and I'm going to have to say this slowly because if once you say this movie out loud on the internet, you're going to get a lot of hate. It's Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Oh man. Oh, this is hard for me. Oh shit. Okay. Damn it. So Fate of the Furious is actually like, it's my favorite of the Fast and Furious franchise. But I know Last Jedi is like a very divisive film in the fandom and everything, but I absolutely love it. I think it's one of the most, it's one of the most visually striking films in the series. Like to get to this point and still be able to create scenarios that are like look completely different and play around with the lore and the world and everything. So I appreciate this film and what Rian Johnson set out to do as a fan. Like he's a fan. A lot of people complain that like he has no respect for what came before and everything. And he has so much respect for it that he thought of the natural progression of what these characters would be doing at this point in their lives and everything. So I absolutely love it, and I think it has some of the most interesting emotional dynamics of the franchise. Damn it! Like I saw Fate of the Furious at an advanced screening, full house, IMAX, and it was one of the most enjoyable experiences in a theater.
Pushing torpedoes with your arm,
Yeah, it's so dumb, and I love it. Like by the point where Jason Statham is running around a plane shooting people with a baby in a carrier, like people were losing their minds. So I absolutely love this film, but I gotta give it to Last Jedi just because what it meant for the franchise and everything. So I think creatively, clearly, Last Jedi is the one that's more interesting. So Last Jedi.
Perfect. That's The Last Jedi. And sorry, Rob, which way are you going?
What can I say? It's the Fast and the Furious franchise. They all run into one for me. Like they're good fun. They're good fun, and like all that craziness with I can't even remember him running around the plane with a baby, but yeah, it was great fun, and you knock your brain off and just enjoy it. And it's the crack, but like they're all the one. I don't know which one. Once people start coming back from the dead, it's kind of gotten a bit ridiculous. So like sure. I don't know which is which in them. They're all the one movie, and but they're great crack. Star Wars. You know what? I loved what they did with it. I love what they did with Luke. I wanted my hero, my childhood hero, to come back. I wanted to see him pulling Death Stars out of the sky, out of space, But they didn't. He did something totally different, and it was great. If they just did what we wanted, it would have been just Star Wars again.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed what they did. Even though everybody gives out about this film, I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of crap. There was a lot of wasted time. There was characters that were wasted. Benicio was like just ridiculous. He did. Like, he could have been.
Disney loves him for some reason. I don't understand that relationship because he's a very weird actor, but whatever.
We just forget about the entire Canto Bite storyline. Just forget about Canto Bite.
Like, it was great. Yeah, I enjoyed some of it, but it was ridiculous. It was just to give them something to do.
Yeah. I will say the first time I saw it, I had so much trouble connecting with it because the whole storyline is based on the fact that they ran out of gas. I'm like, that's what we're doing right now is we ran out of gas. So like that to start from there, I had so much trouble, but it's great once you get past that.
Yeah, well, Star Wars the win for me. There.
Perfect.
Ted,
Ted, I'm guessing you go the same way, since you haven't seen Fate and Furious.
Listen, I haven't seen Fate of the Furious. They called that film The Fate of the Furious, not F8. They didn't even do that. They had the chance, they had the opportunity, and they didn't even bother taking that. How lazy can you be? Like, how fucking lazy can you be? Like, if you can't even put, a little bit of effort into the title of your film, like, the rest of your film can fuck off as well. I think, as for Last Jedi, I think Last Jedi would have been a very good film had that director been allowed to do the first film and the third film of the series. The problem was that he did the middle part of a series where he had his own idea and the other guy had his own idea. And I don't understand, two directors wanted to do it. I understand that. Everyone wanted to direct Star Wars because everyone was a huge fan of it when they were growing up. Why not just
They had three. Colin Trevorrow was meant to do the third one before they let him go, and they brought JJ back.
Yeah. Why not just let JJ have 3 films? You can go have another 3 films with somebody else and another 3 with somebody else. Like, you could have kept doing that, but what you did was you were like, we'll have 3 directors on 3 separate films, and none of them will have spoken to each other and like established what the story is going to be. He'll just do the first one, and then everyone else will just have to follow him. And people shit on that first one because it's too similar to like one of the older films, and they're like, but the older film is the best one. How do you shit on a film that is exactly a carbon copy of the best of the films? Like, the only bad thing you can say about it is it's unoriginal, but you can't be like, it's crap. It's not crap. It's the exact same as the film that you think is the best of the films. It's hardly crap. It's just not original, and that was the problem with it. So, like, I don't understand the hate for I do understand the hate for the film because of how it worked out being sandwiched between 2 other things. But as its own film, if you could just take that and be like, there's that film, and I'll imagine he made something before it, and I'll imagine he made something after it. I think you would have had a really, really good trilogy there.
Ryan's getting his own trilogy, so hopefully we'll get something creative and interesting.
I think it's a bit late, though. I don't know where he's going to go now, because now he has to come up with a completely different story again.
Yeah.
He's a good world builder, though.
He is, so I do look forward to it, but I think that is the biggest problem with that film.
So next up, we're going to start off with Rob. We have Captain Marvel up against the Lion King remake.
Well, look, the Lion King remake, one of my least favorite of the remakes. I love the kind of Lion King. I had so much fun with my children when we watched the original. So I have so many good memories. I'm sure you do too. Of watching the Lion King. That you don't like. I love those little nuances of little nods, that they showed more in the remake, of expressions on their faces that they couldn't do in the animated version, which I really liked.
Yeah, but their eyes were soulless. Their eyes were soulless. There was nothing behind those eyes.
Black eyes, like a doll's eyes.
He was screaming when
you did that about Brie Larson as well.
When Mufasa's falling,
you say that about Brie Larson and Captain Marvel as well. So
yeah, well, I'm not a fan of Captain Marvel. I can't deny this one would be a tough one for me to vote for because I actually dislike both films. But oh jeez.
Yeah, well, you think Brie Larson is quite soulless as well.
I do.
I'll give it to Captain Marvel. I think that I enjoyed Captain Marvel. I thought she did very well in it. I like her as an actress. I can see where you think that she was like a bit boring in it or what other adjective you want to use, but I liked her in it. I thought she did it very well. It was the first time a woman took on the lead role for a Marvel movie, which was great. And I thought she was good fun. I thought she was great cracking it. I really enjoyed it. And one of the best cameos from Stan Lee. So yeah, Captain Marvel wins for me. The Lion King just
it pales in comparison to the
didn't have
original.
the magic of the original. Yeah, didn't have the magic of the original, but it was good. Captain Marvel.
And as much as I enjoy her, the Lion King remake had way too much Beyonce. It just did. It just did. They took out some beautiful Hans Zimmer score to give to Beyonce's new song when Simba's running back, and it just took away from the moment. I think takes away from the moment.
Yeah, I think me and my two boys sitting there screaming, "Go on, Simba!" Walks better than any Beyonce song.
So that's one vote for Captain Marvel. Ted, what about yourself?
Right. So the Lion King. Has anyone seen the pictures of the Lion King where they slightly animated the faces of the real lions? Right.
Yeah.
That looks deadly. It looks deadly.
It looks
And if
great.
that had been the film, that would have been way better. The biggest problem with the Lion King is, right, you have Mufasa and you have Scar. And if you switch those two and put one in the wrong spot and the other one in the other spot, I genuinely wouldn't have known which one was which because they're both just lions.
Yep.
That's the biggest issue. They've decided they want to do live action, right? Which is great. Like, it has worked for some of them. But it's not live action because you didn't get live lions to fucking run around doing shit like that. Okay, you just didn't. It's animated, so why not? Like, if I know you're calling it live action, but that doesn't mean you couldn't have put a bit of animation into it to give like the characters some, facial recognition or something. Like, even the Scar, it's very minimalistic. Like, you can barely see it, so you can't really tell who's who. There's some good scenes in it. But overall, like, they took a film that did really, really well and was very, very popular, and they knew was going to do well when it came out. But they tried to pretend they were going to do live action more than they should have, and they should have just relied a little bit more on the fact that it is animated, and be proud of it that there's a bit of extra animation. Make it easier for your audience to differentiate one from the other, and that gives you a bit more freedom to make some better songs. I do agree that, like, they cast Beyonce, and when I seen that they cast her, I was like, that's a terrible decision because she is now going to be a focal point in this film because you didn't cast Beyonce to not make her a focal point. And her character, unless she was going to be Simba, her character isn't a focal point. So unless Beyonce was going to be Simba, she's in the wrong film here. Captain Marvel, again, one of the lower on Marvel's lists itself as a film. I think Marvel were very heavily aware of the fact that this was their first female lead, and they really tried to drive home, like, let's look at this female lead we have. Look at the fact that we have a female lead. And I understand that, like, it is going to be a little bit different because obviously I am male, so, like, to me, like, I can connect with just the male characters anyway. So there is some people who would feel like it's great for younger girls to be able to see a female lead and things like that, so, like, she can connect to it. There's been nothing wrong with Black Widow in all of it. There's been nothing wrong with all the other females in it. They've all been strong. Like, most of them have been very strong females. Even, like, Peggy Carter is very strong in what she does in it. I know they weren't leads in the films, but you could have just made a Black Widow film. I know you needed Captain Marvel. You needed her for the end story that you were going to give. So I understand why you did that. But I think the fact that they really noticed, like, they were really like, this is our first one, we really have to drive this point home, I think that actually did hurt the film. And it's unfortunate because it shouldn't have hurt the film. But I would go with Captain Marvel because it's better than The Lion King, but it's not going to go far either.
Perfect. So that's one for Captain Marvel. That is going through. So Jen, it's already decided, but which way are you going?
Oh no, I absolutely agree. The live action Lion King it's a travesty. Honestly, like the thing about this film is we were talking about Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park before, and it's the line of like you were so preoccupied of whether or not you didn't stop to think if you should. Because like they just were like so focused on like look what we can do with this photorealistic technology and everything that they completely sucked the soul out of the original. Like the original, they don't look specifically like the animals that they're supposed to be portrayed because it's a cartoon animation. Like they play up the different characteristics in a face so you can like recognize humanity in them and really start to connect with them. And once you lose that, it's really unfortunate. And the moment that I like really, it's so funny to me in the theater. I like died laughing because there's a moment like once again, this is one where they really like beat for beat, shot for shot, were trying to copy the original. Like the Mufasa's death scene is horrendous. The way that they tried to do that exactly the same with a photorealistic lion that like doesn't really like emote at all. So it's just a weird choice. But they specifically, there's a moment where after like Simba has had his little Mufasa in the sky clouds moment, and he like kind of falls down. And the magical in the original film, it's like the magical leaf kind of thing, very Pocahontas-y kind of moment that gets to Rafiki to let him know that Simba's still alive. In the remake, it starts out that way and then like becomes like mixed in with some water and mixed in with some plants and gets eaten by an animal, and then it gets turned into shit, and then it gets rolled by a dung beetle. And I'm like, this is literally what you did when you sat down to make this movie. You took something beautiful and you turned it into shit. So that's what happened with that movie. So I'm not going to vote for The Lion King. Having said that, I agree that Captain Marvel, it is not their best film. It is definitely a lower tier film, and it is unfortunate because, yeah, I think it was a little too late. It's very pandering that they realized, like, okay, Wonder Woman did really, really well, and people really connected with it, and clearly it's filling a gap that has been there for the female audience. And then they came in with, unfortunately, just the way that the storyline is set up. Brie Larson, like, she's a good actress outside of this film, but the character itself, because it's like someone who is supposed to be holding in all her emotions, she comes off so stoic and everything that's like I can't really connect to her. She comes off like very like standoffish and like not personable and everything. I will say every once in a while you get a little bit of humanity from her, especially I love the rapport with her and Nick Fury, her and Sam Jackson, even with the de-aged makeup. Like he looks great. That's one of the best uses of the de-aged makeup. But yeah, Sam Jackson still looks great to me anyway, so maybe that's just part of him. But I will say, like, the one character that I really connected with was Maria Rambeau. She injected some humanity into the film, and it's a shame that we won't be seeing her again. We have Monica now after, if you haven't seen WandaVision, she's kind of, her legacy lives on that way. But that was really the one character that I connected with, so it's unfortunate. But I think now that she has, like, overcome all this adversity and is coming into who she is, going into Captain Marvel 2 and whatever else she appears in later on, I think we'll get to see a little bit more life from her, so that's good. But as it's standalone, like I this is one that I don't revisit very often. If I wanted to feel empowered as a woman, I just put on Wonder Woman. I'm good. So
Perfect. Okay, and one more thing I will bring up about Lion King: you don't sing "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" during the day. It was stuck for the day.
And it hurts me because it's Donald Glover. Like he's amazing. So I don't like. Yeah. I feel like he's such a creative person on his own to be like chained to this really generic storyline within the Disney family. Like I feel bad for him, but he's doing fun on his own, so that's fun.
Exactly. Next up, we have another Avengers film. Probably the worst of the Avengers films. It's Age of Ultron. And that is going up against Aquaman. And Ted, we'll start off with yourself. The only DCEU film on the list.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah. I'm surprised it's the only one because it's not the best one.
No, nowhere near it.
It's interesting. I think that's the best thing you can say about Aquaman. They tried something. And I don't think they failed particularly, but they didn't hit the way they hoped it would hit either. You know, they had to take a risk. Aquaman is a very difficult character. I think they got
They've done
fantastic.
the character very well with Momoa.
Yeah.
He was a great casting choice.
Yeah, he's a great casting choice, but the actual character of Aquaman is a very difficult character. Like, it's very hard to think of him as a superhero in the sense of, like, hey, this guy can control the animals and, breathe underwater and stuff, and you're like, yeah, but only when he's near the water is he strong. Outside of that, kind of not really great, which was good because they got someone as big as a personality and physically big as Momoa, which helps make the character look more imposing outside of that. But it was always going to be a tough one to do. I don't think they did badly with them. So I don't know. Like, I don't hate this film as much as other people hated it. Age of Ultron is more of a building block than a great standalone film. The rest of the Marvel universe doesn't work without Age of Ultron. Like, if you take that out, the rest of the films like coming after it really lose a lot. So it's very important. But I don't really know. Like, suppose I'll just give it to Aquaman just because I think they tried something and it went well. Whereas I think Marvel maybe should have known a bit better with Age of Ultron. Like, they were established, they knew what was going to work and what wasn't. And although Age of Ultron isn't awful, I think it could have been better than it was, and I think that's on them.
Perfect. That's one vote for Aquaman. My biggest problem with that, and it's with a lot of the DC characters, is they're too overpowered.
Yes.
Just way too overpowered. And I was enjoying the movie for maybe the first 5 minutes until he then gets shot in the chest with a bazooka and wipes it off. And I was taken out of the movie. And that was like, it just took me out of the movie completely. And I was just like, okay, we're back here. It's Superman but water.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you need that. There's no weakness in them, and it's just that's what annoys me about the DC. That's my problem with all of DCEU, to be honest. But Jen, what way would you have gone?
Yeah, this one's a little tricky. I think I'm not the biggest fan of either one of these, but yeah, Aquaman, I will say, like, Jason Momoa, he's a very charismatic guy just naturally, so it was nice to see him get both a big role and something that they kind of let him just kind of put his own stamp on the character, because, like, as we said, he's just kind of Aquaman's like soggy Superman. Like, he's just a little too overpowered, not a lot going on kind of stuff. It's just he covers the sea and Superman covers the land. So yeah, I've never been a big fan of the character itself, but I think there was some interesting stuff of what they chose to do with him. I will say Patrick Wilson, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated, hardworking actors nowadays. Like, every time he shows up, he's never really the lead, but he always does a great job. And, like, he's done some really good stuff of both being, like, comedic and horror and now being, like, a villain and everything. I think he is one of my favorite parts of this film. I will also say there's, like, the random gap where they go to the desert, and, like, there's a scene between him and Amber Heard, who is whatever, but they have her fish out of water kind of scenario, and it's very Little Mermaid. So that's like a one moment where I'm like, "This is Little Mermaid. I like the Little Mermaid," and that's about it. But yeah, so Aquaman for me, the Marvel stuff tends to hit me more. Like, I tend to connect with them more. So just by default, I'm gonna go to Age of Ultron. I will say there are a lot of sloppy elements of Age of Ultron, but there are also some really hard-hitting moments that are very small. Like, for me, the Hawkeye scene giving him, like, pep talk to Scarlet Witch, I think is one of the best things. It's like, we got, like, one of the best lines out of a character in the MCU, and it's from freaking Hawkeye that nobody cares about. And it's like, so I really appreciate that. And I think James Spader did a phenomenal job for voice acting and everything. So I think everything that Ultron does is really interesting, and that's an interesting way to play the characters. So kind of by default, Age of Ultron.
Perfect. Age of Ultron with a vote. So Rob, you get the deciding vote on this one. Is it Avengers Age of Ultron or Aquaman to go through to the next round?
I don't know. It's a tough one. Like, I probably watched Aquaman more, to be honest. But I really enjoy Aquaman. I agree that they're all too overpowered, but I still like the movies. Majority of them, anyway. Like, I thought Man of Steel was brilliant. I do find it funny that like he can't get hurt with a bazooka, but he can get a tattoo. I don't know how that works.
True.
Yeah, no, I'd have to go with Age of Ultron. I think there's so many great bits. As Ted said, like without it, there's a lot doesn't happen in the MCU without Age of Ultron. Like it introduces the Maximoffs. It has that great scene with the fight with Hulk and Iron Man. That's great.
The Hulk
Really enjoyed it. There's, a lot of the whole the bit at the beginning where you see them all lining up like straight, and they're going into battle. It's straight out of comic books. Like there was a lot of good in it. James Spader was brilliant. I love all the mannerisms that they put into Ultron's face. A lot of people put that down. I thought that was great. It was like, here you go, him looking like the way he looks in the comics all the time. You know what I mean? You want to see his mouth move. You want to see a bit of personality. You don't want to be just talking to a robot, just looking straight at you with a smile on his face. So, I'd give it to Avengers.
Age of Ultron gone through, and we're on to the final matchup here for this round. And we're going to start off with Jen, yourself. It's we can't get away from the Avengers. It's Avengers End Game. They're all in it. All the Avengers are in this. So Avengers End Game up against Joker.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be Avengers End Game. I will say I haven't gone back and watched this. I think I've only seen it twice by now. So I do want to go back and see it, revisit it. But I didn't appreciate the first time around that they were like, when they were laying out the logistics of time travel, where they were like, no, it doesn't work like that. Shut up. So I don't like when a movie tells me to stop thinking about it. So I'm like, no, I'm going to think about it. But yeah, like it's a lot of fun. I think it was a really interesting way of going about this storyline and everything, because it's a little bit of like, this is your life kind of stuff, because they have to go back and like really show these little vignettes of things that happened before and Back to the Future to it, where you're like in the scene before. So it's interesting. It's not my favorite of the Avengers films, but it's definitely another one where it's like, it did what it needed to do, and particularly like the final battle scene, like that's just a huge moment. That's a huge moment for any franchise to finally bring all those pieces together and have them just get in the play box together and go to town. So it's definitely a lot of fun. I will say the one moment where they have in the battle of all the female characters lining up, that's very pandering, and it makes me roll my eyes every time. But yeah, Joker is a fantastic performance by Joaquin Phoenix. And I think had Todd Phillips not opened his mouth a single time after the movie was like created, I'd probably regard it a lot higher. But every time he talks about it, he makes me hate it more. So I saw the news about Joker 2 coming up and that he's writing it and everything. So I'm like, I can't. So there's a lot that I have issue with Joker, but I can't take away anything from Joaquin's performance. Like, he went all in for it, which was very interesting to see him do, being a very serious actor about his craft and everything, to sign up for technically a comic book franchise film, even though it's very different. So I wish that someone with a little more tact would be taking the helm going forward, but yeah. So
it's Endgame vote, is it, or Joker?
Endgame, yeah.
Endgame. Perfect. Okay, and Rob, which way is your vote going here?
I don't know. Joker was a great film, or at least, as Jen said, Joaquin was brilliant in it. It's a tough movie, and everything that's been said about it. It's so dark. I'm shocked and disgusted, to be honest, to think that they're making the second one. It should be just left as a one-off. And
leave it.
What it is, it was great. Joaquin deserved his Oscar. It was fabulous. But I don't want to see more of it. I thought it was great. I liked the way they kind of threw in the little bits with Bruce Wayne and hinted that he was his illegitimate brother and all that type of stuff. It was a great little concept, but leave it at that. It was a one-off, and it was great. But Endgame was so much fun. everything you wanted to see in the whole Marvel universe happened in it. You know, from Avengers Assemble to
Mjolnir.
picking up the hammer, and it was so much fun. Yeah, yeah. So like, yeah, Endgame gets there for me. It was just so much fun. It was like 3 hours of complete and utter enjoyment, regardless of what the crap with the time travel and all that type of stuff. Like, just, we all have our own ideas of what time travel should be. Who knows? Maybe they were right, but I loved it all. It was so much fun. I've watched it umpteen times. I've watched Joker once because it's such a hard watch.
Yeah.
Great, but a really hard watch. But Endgame I've watched about 10 times and I love it. So Endgame gets it for me.
Perfect. And Ted, would you have gone the same way?
Yeah, Endgame would definitely be the victor here. I think Joker is a very interesting film in the concept that they went for, because they've, Joker comic book sort of thing, like he's the villain in a comic book, but they didn't play it that way, which I don't think anybody was expecting. You find sympathy for the character as you watch it, which I know was one of the biggest criticisms. People were like, but you shouldn't feel sympathy for him. You don't by the end, which is the point, that you feel sympathetic for the character near the start, and the further off the rails he goes, the less sympathetic you start feeling towards him, and the more you're like, yeah, like there's, you can be down on your luck, you can have a bad time, but like this wasn't just a guy who had a bad day and just did one bad thing, like the scene on the train where the guys attack him. You still kind of feel sympathy for him there, because you're like, okay, he's snapped, but then it continues and he escalates further and further and further, and you're like, yeah, you don't feel sympathy for him by the end of it. So when that complaint came out, I was like, did these people just watch to kind of like the halfway point and just turn it off then? And that's why they think he's a sympathetic character. He's not by the end of it. And they went a very interesting route where it's nothing superhero-y. It's literally just, this is a man who's mentally unstable. Here's what's happened to him. Here's how he got there. It's a really great backstory. I do get what both Rob and Jen were saying about they're not really sure what they're like, if a second one is needed, but I'm interested to see where they go with this second one. Are we going to go to the Batman route and watch Joker versus Batman, but from Joker's point of view the entire time? Or is it just going to be more of him in the asylum sort of thing? Because obviously in the film you see the clocks are always kind of at the same time. So is the whole film him in the asylum, and that this whole thing has been in his head, and that this isn't actually his backstory, and this is just something he's made up in his own mind? I'm very interested to see where it goes, but Endgame, we're talking about biggest box offices. Everyone was pumped to go see this. Like, anyone who'd watched even one Marvel film had got hooked in and was pumped for this. Nobody was like, I'll wait a week to go see it.
I'll see it.
I'll wait a week and then I'll go. Nobody was doing that, because like loads of people would be like, I'm not going to go straight away because the cinema will be packed and I want to enjoy it. Nobody was thinking that. Everyone was like, I need to get into that cinema. I don't care how packed it is. I'm getting in there. Like,
that was part of it as well. That was part of it, having the reaction of the crowd for all these big iconic moments, like when he gets Mjolnir and all that type of thing. You just hear it in the crowd.
Yeah, like I booked my ticket, I think, like as soon as they went up and they were like, you can now book tickets, I messaged people and I was like, who wants to go? And they're like, oh, when is that? And I was like, it comes out on this date. That's the day I'm going. I was like, there's no, oh, well, we can go the weekend. No, we're not going the weekend. We're going when it comes out. And we're going to Dundrum, and we're sitting in the very back row of the maze of it. We're sitting in the most expensive seats. I don't care how much they cost. That's where we're going. Now, if you want to go, I'll book the tickets. But don't give me a maybe, because I'm booking mine now. Not tomorrow, now. Right? So choose now. Are you in or are you out? And that's how I looked at this. I was like, I'll go on my own. I am not waiting. I went to see Joker on my own because other people weren't that pushed to go see it. And I was, because I was really interested in it. And that just tells you the difference in these two films.
Perfect. So that's End Game going through, and not I don't know if it's surprising or not, but we move into round two there now, and the four highest grossing films are still in. How long will that be? I don't know. But as we've gone through most of our discussions there now and our points, I'm sure the next couple rounds will go a lot quicker than what we have been going through them so far. So we're going to kick this one off with Rob. It's Avatar up against Black Panther.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, I don't know. That's really tough. I look like Black Panther. I really like the Marvel movies. It was great. I like Avatar. Avatar was great fun. The whole 3D thing. It was such a simple story that's been done over and over and over again. It was the fact that it was all 3D and the whole thing was computer generated, made it. It was, yeah. But no, I enjoyed Black Panther more, to be honest. It was more original, I suppose.
That's one for Black Panther. Ted, what about yourself?
My points for Black Panther still stand. I still think in terms of Marvel, it's not their strongest film. I think they just went the wrong way with it in terms of making every other character strong except the main character. They even made his opponent, like who's the guy who's meant to be the bad guy, really likable, and I was kind of sad that he was out of the film, to be honest, by the end of it. But Avatar, in the bin with it. Fucking fun.
Avatar in the bin.
You gotta remember that, like, T'Challa was, he was going through an emotional shit. His father just been died as he was having to take this role as king. He didn't feel he was ready for it. He was going through a lot of shit. I think they did it really well. I thought that, he acted it very well. Just because he wasn't the strongest character, which is probably true, but he was learning. He had a growth. He had a long way to go. Unfortunately, the man died. They don't seem to be recasting it. I don't know.
I think it's the fact that he's not the focal. He doesn't feel like the focal point. It's not actually like his acting in it is very strong. He does very well with what he's given. It's just that he's not the focal point for some reason. The Black Panther isn't the focal point of the Black Panther.
That's fair. Jan, would you have gone the same way?
Oh yeah,
better actor. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no question in my mind. Black Panther gets the win here. Like just to echo, like Chadwick is not the problem. What he's given, like he nails it. It's just I think they knew, they were like, oh, he's going to be around for a while. He's going to be appearing in these other films, so like he has time to really stretch and be seen as a character. Whereas like the Black Panther ensemble, which is all so strong, it's like we gotta introduce them, we gotta make you care about them, and we gotta make them dynamic. And they did it with like 6 characters at once. So like unfortunately it's just they're a little more interesting. But Avatar, the greatest contribution I think now is that they have a whole land at Animal Kingdom, and that's really it. And it's really weird that like there's gonna be 5 more movies supposedly. I don't know what James Cameron's smoking, but yeah, so whatever. I don't know who's asking for these films other than James Cameron's wallet. So I don't know.
Disney's wallet. Disney's wallet as well.
They put a lot of money in the franchise rights for the theme park, so I guess they're like, we need at least 1 more movie. But he's like, I'll give you a 5. So that's really weird.
Yeah. So we have the highest grossing film now officially out of
the last round.
And we'll start off with yourself then, Ted. On the next one, we have Frozen up against the original Avengers.
For me, it's still going to be Avengers. I think that the risk that Avengers took was just so big, and obviously the desire to go see it was nowhere near what it is to go see the likes of End Game and Infinity War and stuff. But there was a huge buzz about going to see that when it first came out. Like, people were really looking forward to it. And I remember there being a lot of speculation of it's going to be terrible and it's going to ruin the franchise. And there was a real big feeling of that. And people were really worried about it. I knew personally that wouldn't bother me because I'd go watch it. And even if it was bad and they made something else, I would watch the other stuff unless they got really, really bad. Which I didn't think they were going to do. Like, I thought they'd done too well with all the other ones to really stink it out that bad. Frozen, I don't know. Frozen did really well, but I don't know if it's as great as it's done. I think it hit a chord somewhere and just did really, really well off the back of that. But I don't think Disney expected it to do that well. And I think that became very obvious when they got a chance to do Frozen 2, because they were like, crap, we have, like, Avengers had a plan. Like, Marvel had a plan. Like, they knew that, like, we're going to make this, it's going to be good, and we have stuff for after it. Frozen was like, let's just release it. It'll make a bit of money, and we'll see how it goes. And then it did really well. They had a year, and they still were like, crap. Like, we don't know what to do. And I think that just shows that, you know, they didn't have as high expectations for it as it did.
So that's a vote for the Avengers, yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, and Jen, which way are you going here?
Yeah, like I still like, I respect Avengers for what it did, everything for the franchise and everything, and for the time it was a huge risk. But I will say, like, they had already done a couple films by that time. Of those films, I think this is the one that has aged the poorest. So for me, I have to go with Frozen, just because, like, I think it was such an interesting movie, because like you said, they did not have a plan. There was a point where Elsa is just straight up the villain. Like, they had to change the story multiple times to get it to work, but by the end, like, they came up with something that is really contrary to every other princess-like story that had come before, and is a critique on it. And that's really interesting to see them kind of make that change and have the most important relationship in a story like this be one between two sisters. And I think the thing that really has made it stick in your mind for one way or another is the songs and the music and the score and everything. And it's like the writing, the husband-wife writing team, like, they have an EGOT for a reason. They're really good at getting both a story across in the span of a song while also making it catchy and relatable and, like, just this sweeping sound. And yeah, like, I went with my sister and I saw it, and by the time we get like halfway through of Do You Want to Build a Snowman, I am like bawling in tears, like telling her, like, I love you so much. So like it really hit me really hard. I will say, like, the franchise has gone a little out of control, just because, like, merchandising, like, that was a huge thing for this film, and it still is. So it has gotten a little out of control, but that's because it really connected for a lot of people. So it was nice to see kids of this generation finding like a young female protagonist to connect with, that, like, for me was like, it was Belle and stuff like that, and now they're getting someone else. So it's really fun. And I like the dichotomy of the two characters of, like, Elsa is this closed off, very shy person, and Anna is just completely naive, up for anything adventurous. So, like, it's really nice that they have, like, polar opposites that you can see completely love each other, even though they do not understand one another at all on, like, the molecular level. But yeah, so it's just a beautiful story. And yeah, Avengers, it's a great movie. I absolutely love it. But for these two, I'll give it to Frozen.
Perfect. And Rob, then you guys have a deciding vote on this one.
Avengers.
Avengers.
Sorry to be
Okay.
so late.
Okay.
Avengers. Like, it's yeah, no. Like, Frozen was nice, but as I said, the first time I saw it, I hated it. It was my least favorite Disney movie for years. And so I enjoyed it more the second time. I kind of gave it a bit more of a look, but the Avengers is just great fun. So yeah, Avengers wins for me.
Perfect. Okay. And next up, then,
Sorry, Jen.
Jen, we'll start off with yourself here. We have Skyfall going up against Iron Man 3.
Oh, it's Skyfall. Skyfall easily. Like Iron Man 3 just made it last time. I absolutely love Skyfall. Easy. Not even going to talk about it.
Perfect. And Rob, what about yourself?
I totally agree with Jen.
Easy.
Skyfall wins for me.
Easy.
I enjoyed Iron Man 3, but yeah, Skyfall, great.
I know this is definitely Skyfall for after what you said about Iron Man last time.
Yeah, look, we found the mask of this fucking podcast. Oh yeah, it's great. Oh, Iron Man 3 is deadly. It definitely deserves to go through here over Harry Potter. Yeah, but the second it goes up against something else, yeah, it's a piece of trash. Put it out. I told you then it was a piece of trash, and I'm telling you now, it's a piece of trash. It's not a piece of trash, to be fair. Like I don't hate Iron Man 3, but it is the worst of the Iron Mans, and it shouldn't have got past the first round. So it definitely doesn't go past it here. And I haven't even seen Skyfall, and I know Iron Man 3 isn't better.
But you haven't seen, like, you think that Iron Man 3 is better than Iron Man 2? Or what?
No, that's 3.
That's a discussion for another day. Rob, you have a tough decision here now. It's Lord of the Rings: Return of the King up against Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Oh.
Who's this?
You. Rob.
Me.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Like the latest trilogy was okay. You never beat the magic of the original Star Wars trilogy, so Lord of the Rings.
Perfect. And Ted, yourself?
There's still a couple of Star Wars knocking around here. There's only one Lord of the Rings. It's not the best of the Lord of the Rings, but I still want to see Lord of the Rings get represented a bit further in than this. So yeah, Lord of the Rings.
Perfect. That's 2 for Lord of the Rings, so it is going true. Would you have agreed the same way there, Jen?
Yeah, I'd still give it to Lord of the Rings just because, yeah, you can view it as a representation of the entire trilogy. Like Force Awakens, I got a lot of respect for it. I think it did like revitalize a franchise that was kind of dying down a little bit, and I absolutely love the characters they came up with for the new trilogy. And I just kind of wish we had more time with them. Honestly, I could easily watch more films with these guys, but it's just a shame. So, but Lord of the Rings, there you go.
Perfect. Lord of the Rings going through to the next round. And next, the 2 ones that's coming up, it's kind of funny to see them come up against each other in a kind of dark way. You'll understand when I say it here. Ted, it's Titanic against Frozen 2.
Well, we know how this worked out. But in terms of which one's a better film, like as I said, like I'm not a huge fan of Titanic. I think it's very long and I think it's very drawn out. It needs to be because it's based off a real life story. It's you do need time to build a connection with these. Like it's not an action film. Like I don't really know what genre I would put it in. Like it's not meant to be action. It's it's not a thriller. It's not anything like that.
It's like a historical drama disaster film.
Yeah, like so I can understand why it's not entertaining the entire way through. Like there's long periods of this that like you really could you can't cut them out because you need them for the rest of the film to make sense. But like once you've seen it once, you could then cut all this out and you could enjoy the film a lot more without all that because you already know what happened. But yeah, Frozen 2 scraped by Incredibles 2. It's not going to go past Titanic. Like Titanic's, as you said, it's still a high grossing film, and that's even without like inflation adjusted. I still don't understand how it did that well back then, but like no, Frozen 2, just good luck.
Perfect. Okay, and Jan, which way would you have gone here yourself?
Yeah, like Frozen 2, I would say the best thing they have going for it is that the production design of like particularly the background animation that they do for every single scene, like because they decided like we need to change up the aesthetic to like the autumn kind of leaves and everything. It's gorgeous. That's like the best thing about it is the animation and the stylings of the costumes and everything, because they were like, we need to sell new dresses for kids. So like they had a couple of different outfit changes in it. But yeah, Titanic it's a straight up melodrama. Like the storyline is very straightforward romance, Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. But yeah, it doesn't matter because it's done well. So I think that's why like it's a very simple story, but done well with a level of detail that James Cameron is like a mad genius for doing, because like he like really poured over every single detail about like the blueprints of the ship to like get it all exactly right. And there's some really cool stunt sequences and stuff. So yeah, Titanic easily.
Perfect. Titanic is going through. Would you have gone the same way yourself, Rob?
Rob's a Frozen 2 guy.
Titanic.
Yeah. Perfect. I like the pun, Ted. I like the pun.
I watched Frozen 2 once.
Perfect. So Titanic going through to the next round. I'm
No,
pretty sure
Titanic
I know
wins.
which.
Hands down.
I know which one. I know what's going through this one here already. Jen, it's Captain America: Civil War against Jurassic World.
Just the original, like Jurassic World, not Fallen Kingdom. Fallen Kingdom died. It's just Jurassic World.
Yes, Civil War knocked it out. Will it knock the two of them out?
Yeah, I think Iron Man, Cap. I think they can take a Dino. So yeah, I personally I would go for Civil War. Like Jurassic World, it's not my favorite in the franchise, and like I appreciate that it brought Jurassic Park kind of back to life. I will say, like, for right now, I know Jurassic World's going to get knocked out here, so I will say go watch Camp Cretaceous on Netflix if you're a fan of the Jurassic Park franchise, because it's a really good show, okay? It's actually better than some of the movies. So that's a better sequence of dinosaur attacks, but Civil War is just a really cool sandbox for some of Marvel's best characters to go and play and fight with each other. So yeah, it's fun.
Perfect. Okay, so that's Civil War with a vote. Rob, do you go the same way?
Civil War, hands down. Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm just like, at least the movies are different. If from nothing else alone, every Jurassic movie is the same. You know, it was like watching, you know, Transformers with Shia LaBeouf running away from bloody Transformers. That's all he did from Decepticons.
Okay,
like,
perfect.
that's all you do about with dinosaurs is just run. Read and run.
And Ted, would you have gone the same way yourself?
Yeah, Captain America: Civil War wins it here. But if anyone is opening like at Jurassic Park and you need guests, hit me up. I'm still down. Like, I'm still
I
down.
go stream and run as well, but other than that, I never want to watch another movie.
No, I still want to watch. I still want to watch more Jurassic Park films.
Oh yeah, whatever they pump out, I will watch. Like I'm not
release
picky.
80 of them. Just have some guy getting chased around by a velociraptor for 8 hours. I'll watch it.
Yeah,
Cool.
but that was the thing that drove me crazy the most for Jurassic World. I was like, there is no way you can run a business like this. I was like, I talked to people that work in theme parks, and like, there's no way you could get like sign off on insurance and everything with the way this park is set up. You're telling me those gyrospheres are like completely independent and they can just go wherever they want? They don't have invincible like ropes and stuff that'll shut it down when you can't, like, you go a little too far into Dino Country. Like, that's ridiculous. So, my God, it was a lawsuit waiting to happen. So yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Next up we have, and Rob, you can vote here first. It's Captain Marvel up against The Last Jedi.
Ooh. Ooh. Captain Marvel. You know, I'm knocking Star Wars out of it. Like they're my least favorite Star Wars trilogy, and most of the, as I said, I think Captain Marvel is a building block for something to come. I liked Brie Larson. I got her. I liked what she was doing, what she did in the movie. I thought Nick Fury, Sam was brilliant in it. It was great fun. It was everything about it, going back to the 80s and just having the crack with all that, you know, waiting for computers to load up and all that type of stuff. It was just so much fun. I just really enjoyed it. It was great crack. Where, you know, there's a couple of scenes in Star Wars that I liked. Other than that, was, you know, it wasn't brilliant. It wasn't that entertaining. As much as I enjoyed what they did with it, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did Captain Marvel. So I'll go with Captain Marvel.
Okay, Ted, what about yourself?
I think I'll go Last Jedi. Like, I know people rip on it a lot, but I think that's just because of where it is. As I said, being sandwiched kind of in between the other two, that really hurts it. I think had it not been put like that, I think people would appreciate it a lot more. And I think that's its biggest fault is nothing to do with the film itself. It's to do with, well, I suppose it's partially to do with the film because he didn't follow on what the last director did. To an extent, he kind of whitewashed bits of it. But I think that's its biggest fault, is that they didn't just let him do it all himself. So I don't hate Captain Marvel, but it isn't one of Disney or Marvel's strongest. It was needed for Endgame and things like that, but yeah, I don't know. I'll go with Star Wars: Last Jedi because I did enjoy it more than most people, I think.
Okay, perfect. So, Jen, it comes down to yourself. You get the big decision. The big decision is Captain
well,
Marvel or Star Wars.
I'm glad both of these have a very strong female protagonist, so I don't feel bad about killing the one Marvel female movie. But yeah, like I think had Captain Marvel come out back when we were doing origin stories for all these other Marvel characters, I think it would have been much better received, honestly, because just by now it's like we're getting so used to the pseudo cookie cutter kind of scenario of an origin story has become kind of the norm just for the MCU, because that's just how it works out, honestly. That's how comics are written. Like very often, like they have to go through the same kind of struggles to get to the hero kind of genre. So I don't hate the movie, but it's definitely not my favorite. Meanwhile, Last Jedi, I think, like for the throne room scene alone, like I would put it through, like, because there's just so much that is going on between the dynamics of Ben and Rey and Luke, and it's just really fascinating to see those characters like really dive into the emotional core of their different force dynamic and everything. And it's just visually striking, like the whole scene at the planet at the end on Crate with the little skimmers that like just like completely ravage the top of the salt planet, and you get the red behind it. Like I love it. Like it's literally it's my desktop photo. It's my desktop photo. It has never changed since that movie came out. I absolutely love it. So yeah, I gotta go Last Jedi. I love that movie.
Perfect. And if you haven't seen it, on Disney Plus they have this new Star Wars biomes thing.
Yes.
And it's just beautiful. It just goes and they show you the whole scenery of Star Wars. It's beautiful to watch.
Also, when is Uncle Ben going to die in Spider-Man? There's one thing I like about Spider-Man. It's that they're consistent in killing Uncle Ben every single time.
He must die. You do not understand Spider-Man if you don't see him die.
Like, where is he? Where is he? You know, he lives with his aunt. Where's his uncle? Come on.
Yeah, that's the thing. I keep going like, okay, who's going to land Marissa Tomei? Like, it's got to be someone interesting. So I do want to see like at least a photo or something of a really famous actor. So I don't know.
Fair. And for the last one in this round, we have two Avengers movies going up against each other. So Ted, it's Age of Ultron against Endgame.
I think this is a pretty easy one, isn't it? One's a building block and one's the final chapter, so to say. So, Endgame.
Endgame. Jen?
What were the two options?
Age of Ultron and Endgame.
Oh. Yeah, like I think, and like Age of Ultron, I think I like it more than most people. But yeah, it is like a very choppy kind of script and everything. But yeah, Endgame had so much it needed to accomplish, and I think it did it in spades. So yeah, Endgame.
Perfect. And Rob, would you have gone the same way? Sorry, Rob?
I think that's a yes.
Yeah, you keep going off. I can't hear half of what you're saying.
Is it
Endgame?
Endgame. Perfect. So we're into the last 8 films. 4 of them are MCU films.
Yeah, I was
Are they all
that.
Disney films at this point? We're getting to that point almost. So
We're getting close. 4 are MCU films, and we have 2 of the top 4 highest grossing films eliminated at this stage. So we have number 2 and number 3 still in it at the moment. But we'll start this one off, and Jen, you can start it. It's Black Panther against the original Avengers.
Oh, like I tried to kill Avengers last time, and yeah, Black Panther is in my top 5 right now. So like I absolutely love it. So I gotta go Black Panther. I think it's one of the like I just said a minute ago about Captain Marvel of like they've gotten kind of cookie cutter in terms of their origin stories, but Black Panther, like it really revitalized the idea because it just had so many dynamic characters. And for me, like I shat on like Captain Marvel a little bit of like being pandering for the women, but this Black Panther has one of the few scenes where you get 2 female characters talking to each other, and they both have very strong opinions, and they're both right to a certain extent. And it's just a really good conversation between Nakia and Okoye, and it's a great scene. I absolutely love it. So Black Panther all the way.
Perfect. Okay, and Rob?
Yeah, well, Avengers seems so old now. I think it's you almost forget how good it was.
Yeah.
And then, like, the Black Panther, like, it meant so much to so many people, especially African people, that it revitalized the whole genre, really, and brought in lots of new people into watching the franchises. It's a tough one. But I'll go with Black Panther because it's just in my memory more. So I haven't watched the Avengers in so long, so I'll go with Black Panther.
Perfect. Black Panther is going through. Ted, would you have voted that way yourself?
No, I would have gone Avengers. I think the build, like, it was as I said, it was one of the biggest risks that they took, and it worked out really, really well. It allowed them to continue on, and it allowed them to grow exponentially. But it also did have building blocks in itself, like the whole scene of Tony going up into space and falling back down. That completely changed the Stark character from what we'd got beforehand. Like, it completely changed him. It changed everything about him. Whereas some of the other characters didn't change, but we did get to see them evolve. Like, we got to see, like, how Hulk. Well, the Hulk films can kind of go away, but like, this was a really strong showing for Hulk. In like, that he didn't want to go, and then we saw why he didn't as well. But we saw a level of control when he did. I think, as always, Black Panther, just the fact that the Black Panther character is so weak in its own film, it always kind of bugs me. I think Michael B. Jordan was extraordinarily strong in this film, and to have him, like, if they maybe kept him around at the end of the film, like, let him be integrated into the family somewhere.
I mean, who knows? They might still.
They still can.
I think they didn't leave themselves open for that, but
I really hope they don't, because it would really undercut what that final scene meant. But yeah.
See, I think they didn't.
Multiverses are coming. Multiverses are coming.
Yeah, they didn't leave. They didn't leave themselves open for that, but they left just enough that they could, say, oh well, you didn't see him die, And I think that, unfortunately, with the passing, they now do need a Black Panther, and I think that they have two choices. One is to go to Michael B. Jordan, and I think he'd do a great job as it, but I don't think that's where they're going to go. I think his sister is going. I think his sister.
I like Michael. I think he's brilliant. I think he's a great actor, but Cheery was a strong enough character to pull it off if they have a good, strong script. I thought the actress was brilliant. I really enjoyed her. I thought she was great. But I want to see T'Challa black. I want to see another T'Challa. Like, there's no reason not to recast him. Michael B. Jordan was somebody else in it. He was Killmonger. He's gone. Cast somebody else. There's lots of other good actors out there that could easily play the role.
I don't think I think they will look at it as a sign of respect not to recast him here, and I think it will go to the sister, and I think she will become the Black Panther, and she'll be, because the Black Panther is the king of there, and she will be the first queen, and I think that is going to.
Why though?
Because for two reasons.
Is a big part of the Marvel universe. Why not recast him?
I think they'll.
Okay, as you said, you don't even think Chadwick was even that great in the role. Recast him, better actor, and recast him.
Yeah, we're not criticizing Chadwick's performance. We're criticizing the writing of the T'Challa character, specifically in Black Panther. He wasn't given as much to do with.
I think he was very good in the role. I think in other films. I think in other films he was extraordinarily strong. I think they just made him. They didn't focus on his character enough here, which, in hindsight, as horrible as it is to say, may have actually been a good idea. And maybe they knew about this, and maybe, like, to be a little bit dark, maybe they knew that there is a chance he is ill. We know he's ill. Maybe we do need to kind of let it be a bit more expansive somewhere. I think they're going to go with her because, one, I think she can pull it off. Two, she'll be the first queen. And I think that'll be a very strong message to know, and it'll be very woman positive and things like that. And I think that's something that they would love to be able to say they've done.
I agree with Ted. I think that
whether it's
was,
right
honestly,
or wrong, I think they will do that.
I think that always was the plan down the road, way down the road, and they just unfortunately had to push it up just because of real life circumstances, and it's unfortunate. But the way that, like, T'Challa and Black Panther, it was such a monumental moment for the community to like just bring in another person and fill in for someone who really gave that sense of self to a lot of moviegoers. It would feel wrong. So to instead turn around and do something for the community that would be like another moment would be the best way forward, honestly. So I think they were already planning on doing that because like that, like Shuri is the Black Panther in some comics. So like it makes sense. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that they had to do it so quickly.
Yeah, I think that is, like, I do think that they were eventually going to go there. I think they have been rushed, but I think there may have been an element of, you know, it was known that he was sick.
I don't think they knew it during Black Panther, but I think down the line, for like Endgame, they might have.
I think he kept it from the general public, but I think, you know, if you know you're signing on to this big film franchise, I think you probably would have said to them, like, listen, I do have quite a serious illness. I just so you know, don't put too many eggs in the basket of me. Like, you know, I'm not saying that is what happened, but it is a potential thing that could have happened. I think that hurt Black Panther, but I think the characters it built up in Black Panther, and I do think it was important that they built them up because the final battle is in Wakanda. So you did need to make these other characters strong, and we hadn't met them before, and they weren't going to be in other films really until Endgame. So I do think it was important to do that, but I still would have said Avengers is the more important film, I think, overall to them. But yeah.
Okay. But Black Panther is going through to the next round. And Rob, you have the decision here now. Is it Skyfall or Lord of the Rings Return of the King?
Ooh. Ooh. All right, well, if we're going for that one movie, Return of the King, and you're not bringing in the whole trilogy,
just Return of the King.
Just Return of the King. Skyfall is the better movie.
Okay, perfect. And Ted?
Now, I'm not having Lord of the Rings get knocked out again on this technicality. Listen, right? That's like saying, "Oh, was Endgame a good? Was Endgame a good film? Was Endgame
the weakest movie you can put in there?
Was Endgame a good film if you didn't have any of the other Marvel films? No. Like, where did all these people come from? Why were all of these people dead? They weren't good because you didn't have them. They build into it. I am not having this. Yes, that
Endgame was a great movie. I think it was a part 2 as well. Let's be honest. Or
part 2 is the strongest of Lord of the Part 2 is the strongest of the Lord of the Rings. But the fact is that without part 1 and part 2 doing well,
we're winding something down, and we have to pick one from another. So, like, you know, it was the weakest of the trilogy. Skyfall was probably one of the strongest James Bond movies to date. Yeah, so it has to beat it. It has to beat the weakest of the trilogy.
It already has, you know, a backing because it's a James Bond film. You know, James Bond has had all these films. James Bond is insanely popular. It has all these other films behind it that allow it to get backed up. People went to see things because it was James Bond. Oh, a new James Bond film. I'll go see that. What if that wasn't James Bond? Would people have gone see it? Possibly not. So if you're going to allow James Bond to be popular because James Bond was popular, you have to allow Lord of the Rings to be popular because the previous Lord of the Rings were popular.
Lord of the Rings to be popular. But Skyfall is a better movie.
I don't think Skyfall is like.
It's simple as that. It's the better movie.
I don't think so. I don't think Skyfall. I haven't seen Skyfall, but I don't think.
Whoa, lads. Jen, make the decision.
I love Lord of the Rings, Ted. There's no denying it. I love them. But Skyfall's a better movie, in my opinion.
Jen, the decision's yours.
Okay, so I said before, I love Skyfall. It's my favorite James Bond film. However, Return of the King, I think, had it not been for the success of this film and what it did, like critically, money-wise, that's why we're talking about it here today, and for the nerd community, literary nerds, we honestly, fantasy as a genre would not be getting any money, period, across the board for film and TV. Like Game of Thrones, you would not have a Game of Thrones if it was not for Return of the King. You wouldn't have like any fantasy stuff going on nowadays. Like Skyfall, it's James Bond, it's a spy film. There are spy films without the help of James Bond. Like even if that movie tanked, James Bond would still be a franchise because it's something that's kind of easy to make, honestly. You can throw as much money as you want at it. And like sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. I hope the next one is really good. But Return of the King is a phenomenal event of a film, and I would be remiss if I let it die over James Bond. So yeah, Return of the King gets to move on.
Perfect. Lord of the Rings goes through to the next round. And Ted, you get to decide on this one. Is it Titanic or Civil War? Captain America Civil War.
Civil War. Titanic is good for what it is. It's not like it was a great box office. It did very, very well, but it's not that enjoyable to watch, to be honest. Like Civil War is definitely more enjoyable.
Perfect. Okay, Jen, I just want to bring your attention to this comment.
Yeah, see, Tom Cruise is holding it down for the spy genre at this point, so he'll just be making movies until his 80s. So yeah, we're good.
Perfect. So, Jen, what way are you going in this one, Titanic or Civil War?
See, I feel bad because Titanic is like the last non-franchise film left that we have, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it is.
But unfortunately, yeah, like just for sheer like rewatchability, I think I gotta go Civil War. Like Titanic, it was great in its time. Celine Dion completely created an earworm for like 10 years that was really obnoxious. But it's funny that is like the oldest one on the list here. It's old enough that I remember that this was out on VHS and it was 2 tapes because that's how long it was. But yeah, so unfortunately, we hit an iceberg for Titanic, so it's going to stop here. And Civil War is it's one of the better, like it's not an Avengers film, but it's one of the better MCU ensemble films. So yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. And the last one in the quarterfinals, Ted, you can start us off. Oh, sorry, Rob. Sorry, would you have gone the same way there with Civil War?
Okay. Civil War.
Civil War. Okay. So sorry, it's Jen. We'll start off with yourself here. We have Star Wars: The Last Jedi against Avengers End Game.
Ooh. See, Endgame's not my favorite. So yeah, I'm gonna go Last Jedi because of the new trilogy, I think it's the strongest one. And for Endgame, like I think it doesn't work as much as a standalone. It depends on the supporting films around it. So just for that reason, I gotta go Last Jedi.
Okay, that's one for Last Jedi. Rob, what about yourself? Is it Star Wars or the MCU?
Endgame. Most enjoyable. I watched it 4 or 5 times. I watched Star Wars once. Well, once actually. I've only watched it through once.
Okay,
so yeah,
perfect.
Endgame.
So Ted, you get to make the decision. Is it Star Wars: The Last Jedi or Avengers End Game to go through to the semifinals?
I really enjoyed Last Jedi, and I was really hoping it would build somewhere, and it didn't. Well, it did, and then it was all knocked down. It was like
just the film, just The Last Jedi, just Endgame.
I know, yeah, but I felt it could have been like it was very good in its own pocket, but it is part of a bigger universe, and it didn't fit into the universe, not because of anyone in the film and not because of the director. Endgame relies on Infinity War. They are one film. They just weren't willing to make it one big film. You know, it's a money grab in some people's eyes, but also I think you did need both of them to be 2.5 to 3 hours long, and it would be a lot to ask people to sit down for 6 hours. As I said, going to the cinema, there was no way I was missing first day release of Endgame, I don't think I was as passionate about going to see. I do think I still went to see Last Jedi on release, but I don't think I was as passionate, and I don't think everyone else was as passionate either. Maybe I was as passionate. I'm really big into Star Wars, so maybe I was as passionate, but definitely everyone else wasn't. So I think on that, it is Endgame. I think Endgame was so popular that I think it would be hard to see it get knocked out by something that isn't very well acclaimed in a trilogy, not just in its own right. But
I will say, in theaters for Last Jedi, the Holdo maneuver when it cuts to silent, like I have not experienced a theater completely hold its breath like in unison. Then in that moment, it's like, this is something we've never seen before in Star Wars, and it was just a great moment. So
yeah, and I think that is the thing. He took a big risk, and that's why I would have liked him to get the entire thing, because JJ kind of stuck with what he knew worked, whereas this was taking a risk. He was like, I'm going to bring Star Wars somewhere different. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want a rehash of what I'd seen. I'd already seen what JJ had to give me. I didn't want to see it again. I'd already seen it once and I'd enjoyed it. Not to say I didn't enjoy it when JJ did it, but at the same time, I'd already seen it. I didn't need it again. Whereas I would have liked to see this different take on it. So I'm glad he is getting his own trilogy, and I'm really interested in that. But
perfect. And so we move now into the semi-finals. And we're going to start off here. Rob, is it Black Panther or Lord of the Rings Return of the King?
Oh, no.
Black Panther or what?
Lord of the Rings Return of the King.
What?
Lord of the Rings Return of the King.
Lord of the Rings Return of the King.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I have to give it to Black Panther.
Oh, Black Panther. Okay. One vote for Black Panther.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, he voted and left.
Voted and left. Off he goes.
He's so disgusted with himself for that vote that he left.
Right, hopefully he'll be able to come back. If not, I'll just continue on with the last two votes. But Ted, what about yourself for this one?
Lord of the Rings for me.
Lord of the Rings. Okay, that's 1-1. Ted,
no.
you get the hard decision.
Oh no, this is I want this to be the final. Because I'm pretty sure the other two are both MCU, aren't they?
They are.
God damn it. Okay. Like,
let's not have an MCU final here.
I know, but that's the thing, is I really consider this the final for me. Because like these are my two favorite of the ones remaining, I'm pretty sure. It's really hard because like these two films, from just a production standpoint, like they are both supremely detailed in the world building that they created and everything. But because Return of the King is the third in the franchise and it is the weakest of the three, I think I gotta give it to Black Panther just because of what that movie did, like for the MCU, for the film going community. Like Ryan Coogler, he came in and he knocked it out of the park, and like it has a brilliant score, and I just love every character that was introduced. I instantly fell in love with, and it has like one of the most talented casts, honestly, coming in. So yeah, like it feels so weird to kill off Lord of the Rings, but I think I got to go Black Panther.
Okay, Black Panther going through to the next round. Into the finals it goes, and meeting it in the finals, Ted, you can make the decision here, or start off the voting anyway. It's Captain America Civil War against Avengers End Game.
Again, Endgame is the one that everyone was really pumped to go see. Like I believe at the time when it came out, Civil War was probably pretty close. I think everyone was really looking forward to it. Like, I think you said it earlier, Jen, that when news broke that this is the story that they were going to go with, that there was huge.
Lost their minds. Yeah.
People went insane for this, and they were like, "I can't wait to see this." And I think there was again a fear. I think there was like a buzz and an excitement, but I think there was again a fear where people were like, "Oh, if they mess this up, like how bad does it hurt the franchise again?" I don't think it was a risk because I think they knew where they were going anyway. I think they already had it all planned out, and I don't think this was as big as a risk as the first Avengers was. And I think it set up the building blocks that they needed for everything else to happen so that they could continue on to Endgame, Infinity Wars and Endgame. I think Endgame for me it's what everyone was building to see. Like that's 10 years in the making sort of thing, and everyone was just insanely pumped. Like I can't imagine there was an empty seat in that for at least the first month of it being shown. Like I can't imagine there being any empty seats. So for me, it's Endgame based on that, but I wouldn't be upset to see either one go through. I think they both have merit.
Perfect. Okay. And Jen, yourself?
I unknowingly I've just started this T'Challa train. I'm gonna keep riding it to the finale here. But yeah, like Civil War for me, like I consider it an Avengers movie, and it is the one that I think story-wise that it's the most interesting because you get the most interplay between all the different dynamics. Like just the airport fight scene alone, it's like you get to see these matchups that like only you in like your room with your little action figures would have thought of to do beforehand, and you have to like see like what does this mean for this character be fighting this one and everything, and it's just so great. And yeah, like the behind the scenes stuff of when they did that first Comic-Con and had Tom Hiddleston come in dressed as Loki, and he's like, guess what, I'm coming back kind of shit. So like it's great, but like it's just to see when Chadwick was first brought on stage and everything for that Comic-Con, it's like, hey, this is our T'Challa. And the moment that the teaser was dropped and Tom Holland comes in and does the hey everyone, people lost their minds. Like that's what the internet was for like a good couple of weeks. So I absolutely love Civil War. I think it's a more interesting storyline because Endgame, we said it before, of it is just the other side of the Infinity War coin, and it's just kind of hitting the reset button of we need to fix this shit that Thanos just did. So like it's not my favorite, and yeah, whereas Civil War, it's just the best feeling of what all these Marvel fans have been looking forward to since they were introduced into the characters. It's like you want to see these weird matchups between some of your favorite characters and how it would play out and everything. And at the same time, there's also an emotional core that I think hits a lot stronger than Endgame does. So I got to go Civil War.
Perfect. So, Rob, you get the decision of what goes into the finals. Is it Captain America Civil War or Avengers End Game?
And what's going into the final with?
Black Panther.
Black Panther.
Yep.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because like Endgame is brilliant. I really enjoyed Endgame, but I think Captain America is the best trilogy out of it, and although I think Winter Soldier is probably the strongest out of the three,
Agreed.
Civil War was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. It's really hard to pick out the two. So much as everything happened in Endgame that you wanted to see. You really wanted to see it all happen, and you got everything that you wanted. The Russo brothers were amazing in what they did. It's really tough. I think I'll go with Endgame. As much as I like Civil War, it's tough. It's tough between them, but I think I'll go with Endgame.
Perfect. Endgame goes through to the finals, and Jen, you can start off the finals here. It is the finals of the Sherlock reel, the highest grossing films in the box office, and we have gone down to the last two. It's Black Panther versus Avengers End Game.
I mean, I gotta at this point. Like I'm full in. Like I absolutely love Black Panther, and Endgame is just like for me. It's kind of like a natural conclusion. Like, yes, it was something that like it's for the directors to have to figure out. It's like, okay, how do we manage to get all these characters to have a moment in a film that we don't want to be forever. But like it does have some great moments, but it doesn't, like, Black Panther instantly hit for me. Like, it's not a character that I was super familiar with. Like, going into it, everyone was like, oh, it's just another Tony Stark kind of character. But for me, it's every character that was introduced in Black Panther is capable and smart and like understanding of other people. And it was just like, it's so interesting to see that, where like there's no clear villain. Everyone had a point and everyone had an understanding and a viewpoint that like was valid. So I absolutely adore it. I think it's some of the most interesting production design and costume design. Like, they went and like took actual historical elements from different tribes of Africa and everything to create the world of Wakanda and everything. And that's going to be a whole bit on Disney and everything. So like, I'm excited to see what they do going forward and everything. Whereas Endgame is just kind of like, it's the final chapter. So like, clearly I love Harry Potter and I kicked out Deathly Hallows Part 2 in the first round. So like, clearly I like the build more than I like the finale. So that's a me problem. So whatever, Black Panther.
Vote for Black Panther. Perfect. Okay. Rob, what about yourself? It is number 2 on the list against number 12. Avengers End Game against Black Panther.
I love Black Panther. I was a fan of Black Panther before he was ever introduced. I loved the idea to China. I loved the fact that it was this secret African nation and it was ruled by this king, and his backstory was great. And they haven't really gone into that too much in the movie, but like, if you've read the comics, you know his backstory, and it's brilliant. I really enjoyed it, and I thought his portrayal by Chadwick Boseman was brilliant. And the other characters, like Killmonger was probably the star of the movie. I thought Shiri was great. Lupita Nyong'o was okay. I didn't think she was the anywhere near the strongest character in it. I'm not sure of his bodyguard. She was brilliant.
Okoye.
I'm not sure of her name.
Okoye.
She stole the show for me, to be honest. And I thought that Andy Serkis was brilliant.
He's great.
One of the best baddies that they.
And that was such a switch to do that too, to like suddenly kill him off, because everyone loves Andy Serkis, and like he got that tiny little cuttlefish scene in Age of Ultron. You're like, oh, he's going to be a big deal when we get to Black Panther, and to like undercut that, it's like, oh, that was really surprising. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Well, Endgame is my favorite out of a lot of them, so I have to give it to Endgame. Through it all, as good as Black Panther was, I have to give it to Endgame.
Perfect. So there is no good guy Ted today. Ted, you get the final decision. Which film wins? Is it Black Panther or Avengers Endgame?
No, I am the good guy because I'm putting a stop to this. Right? Black Panther is good for what it does, but it definitely doesn't make the Black Panther character seem any stronger, which I think is what an origin story should do. It should get you invested in the character that the story is about. Like, imagine you were watching the Spider-Man origin story and it was pretty much just focused on Aunt May, and it was just like, yeah, Spider-Man, like, yeah, he's
the Spider-Man movies are very focused on Iron Man. I'm just gonna point that out.
Exactly, and I dislike that about them as well. Yeah, which is the main problem with them. Like, they focus too much on the other people. But it'd be as if, like, for Spider-Man, I understand that, there's a different sort of dynamic there. It'd be kind of like if his best friend was the more important character there. Like, yeah, he's Spider-Man, but I'm his best friend. Like, they focus on the wrong person, and it's not on. I don't blame any particular actor in it. It's just whatever way they've written it. Again, I don't know why it was written that way, but I think that hurts it. And I think it did help later for Endgame and for Infinity War, because we now had these other characters that were very, very strong in those films, and we could understand and connect with them. Like, when they're trying to remove the Mind Stone from Vision and stuff, we get to see the characters defending him. We get to see how smart she is in her ability to be able to remove it and keep some of his memory there. I think that ended up actually being quite good from Black Panther, but I don't know, was that the intention when they did it or not? But even if it was, I still think it was a mistake to make the Black Panther such a weak character in his,
Well,
or not a
I think you
focal
gotta
point
look
in his
at it
own
more
film.
as
Not
like
weak, I suppose.
the title is Black Panther, but the entire film is more about what it means to be the Black Panther, not necessarily T'Challa's own discovery within it, because like they do a lot of flashbacks to T'Chaka and what it means between him and his brother N'Boku and everything. So like it's more of like what it means to have the Black Panther persona as a character, and Killmonger trying to come in and become that, because he understands that if the Black Panther character is taken this way, it can actually push Wakanda into like a whole world dominating force, just because we have so many resources that others don't and everything. And T'Challa is struggling between that of maybe we should be using that level of force and being apparent in the world, or maybe we should be alone and like T'Chaka wants to be hidden and everything. So like it's more about the dynamic of the persona rather than T'Chaka's journey. Like he does go through a lot, and the entire afterlife sequences that you see where he like after discovering what they did to Eric's character and everything, and like trying to just come to that realization of like, you were wrong, you did the wrong thing. Like that's like, it's a really cool moment. So
it is, but I think that the film itself is just a building block. That's all it was meant to be. When they made it, they just needed a building block to get to Endgame, and that's all they ever really wanted it to be. They knew it would do well because, one, it's a Marvel film, and two, the cultural background of it was going to hit very strong, which it should, because there did need to be more representation of, non-white males as, lead characters. It was needed. Again, that's kind of what they wanted to do with Marvel, with Captain Marvel. I still think they made the wrong decision there. They should have just gone with Black Widow. They finally are, and it was a character that everyone kind of knew. You had enough of her backstory that didn't need to be spelled out for you in that film either. So I think they just made the wrong decision on which female character to go with there. But again, it was a building block that was needed to get you to Endgame. And I think that Endgame is like, yeah, it's what they were building to. But even when they ended it, they showed that this isn't actually the end. They left themselves open so that they could continue on the story with new characters. It's just the end of some of the ones that we'd grown to love and grown up with in the film. So for me, it is Endgame. Endgame is the strongest out of the biggest, definitely box office wise. I'm actually surprised it didn't end up being number one in the box office. I'm really surprised.
It was, and then
they switched again. Yeah.
Well, okay, that doesn't make sense, because if you, does anyone remember Avatar? Was Avatar re-released anywhere? I don't remember Avatar.
It was. That's how it got back.
It only got re-released last year.
That's not a box office. Stick Avengers in the fucking cinema again now, and I guarantee it'll make more money. That's not a box office. If you re-release it so that you can make a bit more money to be number one on the list, bollocks. That doesn't count. All right.
It's all Disney money. It's all Disney money.
It's all Disney money at the end of the day. So
it is. But I think the point is that Disney knew, they were like, we need that, that characteristic of the number one box office, because we need to sell 4 more or 5 more, however many more films of this crap to people. So the only selling point is that it was the number one box office, and that's what happened there. Because otherwise,
I don't think you're wrong. Yeah.
Why would you bother? Because that's not a box office, and like it shouldn't be considered that it's the top box office. But because Disney have so much money, they forced it to be that way.
Perfect. So there we have it. We've gone through the 32 highest grossing films of all time, and we found out that number 2 on the list, Avengers End Game, is the best of them all. We're just going to say a quick goodbye to everybody here. Rob, do you have anything to say?
It was just great fun. It was nice having some heavy discussions with you guys. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for a good 2 hours and 43 minutes.
It was a long old one.
Yes, this is definitely the longest episode of the Sherlock Reel we have done so far. What about yourself, Ted?
As always, yeah, great to be on. Great to go through them. This definitely is the longest one, but I think that was always going to happen with these big box offices because you're going to have varying opinions on different. Like well, I was going to say there's a lot of different types of films. There's not. There's mainly Marvel films and then a couple of others scattered in between it.
True.
But yeah, Ted from Retrotainment on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Just check us out. We just look at old films and stuff. We'll be releasing a show tomorrow at 2 o'clock Irish time, which is going to be Bad Boys this week. So,
sweet.
That was a really good rewatch.
Nice. Perfect. Okay, and then Jen, yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, I think it's just like with these films, these are all big fandom franchises and we're a bunch of nerds. So like, it's really hard to hold back. And like, I got nothing against Endgame. I think I'm just still salty about the fact that Cap at the end goes back in time and doesn't offer for Bucky to go back with him. So like that still bothers me to this day, that his best friend is like, you're also a fish out of water and I'm just going to leave you here and you can figure it out on your own. I don't know. So that still bothers me. But yeah, you can find me, Jen Kemp, on Twitter and Letterboxd at JKMemeQueen. And tomorrow night I'll be on the PJ Campbell Network playing Mario Party because I do that like every week. So yeah.
Excellent. Perfect. Well, the Sherlock reel, we'll be back in 2 weeks. We're discussing another topic, going through another 32 films to try and find a winner of that particular one. I hope you all enjoyed there tonight, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thanks very much. Slán.
Look.